Hello, my Teaserking family. How's everybody today? Well. We got two winners yesterday. Hit my hit my Monday night teaser. So I had Philly. I said they were a good road favorite. They came through, and then I took the Rams in 9, and I got a late touchdown, luckily. But Cincinnati looked a little bit better, which is good. I want Joe Burrow to do well, and this way we can bet on him with meaningless games. So it was impressive beating the Rams. And a little revenge for the Super Bowl. So I had 24-20 Philly. They win 25-11. Not bad. I had the Rams 21-20. It was 19-16. So not bad either. So I finally feel like, okay, here we go now. I ran my stats, which I got to put in my thing. I just ran them. So we have two strange spreads next week. Let's go through the line. Let's go NFL line, and then we'll go college line. So for some reason, we have the Lions 1.5, 45.5. Jacksonville 3 and 43.5. Doesn't make a whole lot of sense. I think Atlanta's a better team, don't you? Buffalo 3, 53.5, up from 2.5. Minnesota 3.5. 45.5, and a lot of that determines if Andy Dalton's playing. He should be. We have Denver 3.5, 46. I'll tell you, this is a game that I think Denver wins pretty big, because when you give up 70 points, I think the coach is going to be ballistic. I think the team's embarrassed. These are professionals. They have a lot of pride, and I think they're going to kill the Bears. Cleveland 2.5, 41.5. Pitt 3 and 42.5. Baltimore or Indy 1.5, 45.5. Interesting. Now the Rams are also a dog. They were a favorite yesterday. New Orleans 3 and 39.5, down from 41 against Tampa. Philly 8.5, 45.5 from 7. Cincinnati 2.5, 42.5. San Diego 6 and 47.5, up from 4.5, down from 49. Dallas 7, 42.5. San Francisco 14, 43.5. Kansas City 9.5, 42.5 from 10. Better be careful with the Jets defense, boys. And the Giants 1.5, 46.5. So automatically I see two plays I got to check out. Detroit favorite at Green Bay. The Giants favorite against Seattle. Right there, the bells and whistles, the alarms are going on. The third one is Jacksonville being favored over Atlanta. Buffalo only 3.5 over Miami. Cincinnati 2.5 over Tennessee at Tennessee. Indy I got the Rams as a 7-point favorite. You want to make Indy a 1.5-point favorite? Really? Oh my God. New Orleans 3, all right. Philly, This is why you bet games early. They were 7, now they're 8.5, but you couldn't really do anything because you don't know, are they going to get something injured? And I love is that, so they signed the Lions guy, number 0, and he's putting up 150 a game. For the Lions, he never put up anywhere near that. So the Lions are very good at not using players properly. They had a guy, Kyle Van Noy, All-American from BYU as a linebacker, never played him. Goes to New England. He's all pro like 5 years, So the Lions are clueless, as we already know. Pitt 3 over Houston makes sense. San Diego 6 over Oakland. Dallas 7 over New England. I think Dallas kills them. They just lost to Arizona. They're at home. New England, I mean, they're going to be all over Jones. The Niners 14 over Arizona. Now here, I think the Niners just saw. Oh, wait a minute, Arizona, Dobbs runs. They just beat Dallas. There ain't no way now they're going to beat San Francisco. Plus, it's a division game. They're both in the NFC West. So Frisco needs the game. But I think now you've seen what Dobbs is, and you see what Arizona is. I don't know about the 14, but they will certainly cover that. KC 9.5 over the Jets. We'll see. You can't count the Bear game because that's playing a high school team. And then again, Giants 1.5 over Seattle. I mean, I'm smelling the Rams getting points from Indy and Seattle getting points from the Giants and Green Bay getting points from Detroit. Absolute jokes. Those 3 spreads are way off. Fuck, I got Seattle -7. I got the Rams -7 and Green Bay -3. I am not off 8 points with my lines. Never. Now, is there terrible injuries? I don't know, but you've got to be kidding. And I'm kind of not looking as much on over-unders right now. I find I play better when I play in the NFL with the teams. The over-unders in college maybe, but when I play the teams in the NFL, that I do very well. Like last night, I didn't play the over-under. It made sense. Philly's a great road favorite. Don't forget that. All right. College, I filled in the under-overs and everything. And then we're going to walk through the injuries. So game 1, which is the 28th, which is Thursday. All right. We got 2 games. So we've got Western Kentucky 5.5, 59.5, and against Middle Tennessee. Western Kentucky's an over team, and Middle Tennessee's a W, so they don't have much offense. They kind of have an under defense, so it's kind of on the edge of a W, but I call them a W anyway. Western Kentucky's only laying 5.5 on the road. They just got killed by Ohio State. I don't know if they played last week or not. We'll talk more about it, but right now it's like you got a good offense, but not a good defense. But Middle Tennessee doesn't really have a good offense. So we'll have to read a little bit more into it because I know they played Michigan and they get shut out, and then it makes it look like they don't have a good offense. Tulsa 3.5, 55.5. They're both Z teams. Tulsa and Temple are Z teams. The game's at Tulsa, so this is the game. I don't really know what you do with two Z teams. If you take the home team, you take the dog. Not a good game to bet. Jacksonville State 6.5, 36.5. They're both under teams. That's why the total is 36. So it's a real, it's a real low total. But Sam Houston averages like 100 yards a game. I mean, I look at their yards. So on one of my sheets, I have them points. I have the quarterback, so I can see if when the quarterback's injured, if I don't know him, if he's the starter or not. And then I have their running, passing, and total yards. And Sam Houston gets like 109 yards a game. I don't know what they got. Their quarterback's terrible. And yet they're probably an under here, 36 points. It's probably they won't get in the 30s. We'll have to do more. Again, who's Jacksonville State? We got to learn them. They are an under team also. So this is sort of what I had last week with the Iowa State, Oak State. Both teams sucked. They were both unders. They both didn't get 200 yards a game, and they get 60 points. So it happens, but, you got to play the law of averages, right? Louisville, NC State. Louisville 354.5. Louisville's an A team and NC State's a B team. So they both have good defenses. Louisville's the better team here. They're a road favorite. So we got to, get into that. Right now, I'm just giving you the ranking of the teams. I'm not picking unless something sticks out. UTEP 1.5, 52.5. Line didn't move. UTEP is a Z team and LTEC's an over team. We got to check the quarterback was injured. So here's where you would take an LTEC. They're an over team, playing a Z team, getting points. That's what you love for, because the Z team doesn't have any offense or defense. But if you got them as favored against a over team like LTEC, they'll be lucky to win the game, more or less win it by over a touchdown. So that's one that you look for. Betting against the Z team. Oregon State 3.5, 44.5 over Utah. Up from 2.5 and down from 45.5. So what we know about Cam Rising is it's all up to the Los Angeles Ram team doctor who did the surgery, if he can play. Now, for some reason, Cam Rising practices, gets half the reps, 50% of the reps. I guess the doctor calls game day on Saturday and says, he can't play. So I asked my friend, I said, does the doctor fly to Utah and check his knee? How is the doctor ruling? And then why does he wait till Saturday? Because he screws up the practices, right? Rising thinks he's ready to play. The coach thinks he's fine. Rising's fine. He has no effects of the injury. The Utah doctor has no problem that he's out there. Why is the Ram guy without a weekly meeting getting an update? Not only holding him out, but waiting until Saturday to do so. Right? So right now the coach thinks he can play, and then Saturday he'll get the call from the doctor, and the doctor, he can't play. Now I'd be firing this doctor The reason it's the Rams doctor, it happened in the Rose Bowl. So I don't know. I mean, you got a second opinion, your own doctor. What do you think Nick Saban, if he had Cam Rising, would be doing now? Do you think he'd let this doctor tell him he's not playing, or do you think he'd say, "Oh yeah, he's playing, he's ready"? I mean, Saban plays players that are hurt, and he makes them play. So we need to understand why the Ram doctor who did the surgery is what's the routine here? Is he checking him out every week, or is he just, because he's fucking up practice? The backup only gets 50% of the snaps because Rising gets the other 50 because he thinks he's ready to play. Why does Rising think he's ready to play? So this is a very strange, mysterious, sounds like the government's involved here. Shady deals. Otherwise, I'd like Utah. If Rising plays, I love Utah. I mean, but you can't, like, why is the doctor keeping him out? Feel like it's worth backing off until we know for sure. Are you talking about Rising or what? If you're talking about Rising, there's nothing we can do about him. The question is why does the Ram doctor, I mean, is he seeing him every week? And if he's out practicing and he's fine, I'd say fuck the doctor. I got a second opinion from the University of Utah doctor. That's who I'm going with. That's what I would do. All right. Otherwise, it's an under game because without Rising, great defense, Georgia defense. Oregon State's got a good defense. Uglia Buglia, we know, is terrible in the pressure games like last week. So I think this is a under for sure here. Cincinnati, BYU. We got BYU 2.5 and 48.5. They're both B teams, Cincy and BYU's B team. I think BYU's better. Now, I watched the Kansas highlights yesterday. Kansas looks fucking good, I'll tell you that. Their quarterback, I don't really love Daniels, but he can run, but his arm's good. Like, so if he's got a guy 20 yards down the field, he can actually throw a nice pass to him. So we'll talk about Kansas in a little bit. BYU, I think they win. I think at home, I think they beat Cincinnati. Penn State 25 and 46.5 to Northwestern. So we got Penn State as an A team. We got Northwestern as an E team. And we're trying to figure out Northwestern, who threw the ball 50 times last week against Minnesota, who has a better defense than Penn State. So what the fuck is going on here? Now we know Minnesota, we know Northwestern has no defense, right? They need defense, so they're 25-26 a game. So that leads you to maybe going over. $46, you go over 40, doesn't seem to be that bad. Is Penn State's defense that strong? I don't really think so. I don't know. They got a good defense, but we got to wait for the Michigan game and the Ohio State game to really get a feel on Ohio State. This is the problem with college football. I mean, they're on week 5 now, and half the teams you have no idea because they either play the high school team or the weak teams played USC and Michigan and got killed. So are they really that bad? Clemson, 6.5, 52.5. Where the fuck's Clemson? They moved these games up to noon now. Oh, okay, they're right there. Clemson, 6.5, 52.5. They're both A teams. Syracuse is playing very well. Again, who they played? Clemson played Duke and got killed. Played Florida State at home and went to overtime with them. So this game's at Syracuse. Syracuse will be sky high for the game. The problem with Clemson is they were sky high last week and lose to Florida State at home. You know, they're highly emotional. They've got to be flat this week. Now, they're coming off of a loss. But I wouldn't be surprised if Syracuse wins this game because now they're the sky high team. So it really matters who's sky high. Utah State and UConn. Where are we? Utah State is 6.5 up from 4.5. 51.5. Utah State's an over team and UConn's a Z team. So I like marking. I take yellow and I find the Z teams and I highlight them because I'm going to look for them. And there's so many. I mean, you got 60 games. So it helps even if you highlight the W and the Z's. So let's do that now. And we'll do it as we go. Oh, you got to like Utah State here. I mean, they're an over team playing a Z team, only laying 6.5. We'll check for injuries. We haven't checked for injuries yet, but we'll check for injuries. And that's always the other part of it. Yeah, the normal team should win, but wait a minute, is the quarterback playing? And really, unless there's a superstar runner like Barry Sanders, you kind of, okay, I know they have 3 or 4 runners. That's not the big deal. The big deal is the quarterback. Good game here. Kentucky, 2.5, 44.5 against Florida, down from 46. Florida's a B team. Kentucky's an A team based on who they played. Florida lost at Utah. Nobody was going to win at Utah that night. And then they came back and beat Tennessee. Kentucky, we have to look at who they've beaten anybody. This probably is a dog game here. Could be an under, but it dropped from 46 to 44.5. Florida doesn't have a good quarterback, Mertz. Good defense, apparently. They held Tennessee down. What was that Tennessee score last week? Or was it 2 weeks ago? Bobby with his Tennessee picks. 29-16. So they held Tennessee to 16 points, which is really good. And oh, shit. So Kentucky's not, I think Tennessee's got a better offense. So maybe I take Florida an 8.5. Maybe I go under. I think the under. I got to read. Well, Kentucky's got Leary, the quarterback from NC State. See, but just because he portals over doesn't mean he's going to be the same quarterback. We've seen where Love on the Packers His junior year was great for Utah State, and they switched quarterbacks, and he sucked. We looked at Van Dyke last year. He was great 2 years ago. Last year, he sucked because the offensive coordinator was the guy that sucked at Michigan. He calls such stupid plays and then Van Dyke had a bad year. Now they fired him. How many times you got to keep firing Gaddis till you realize he sucks? Anyway, now Van Dyke's lighting it up with a normal offensive coordinator. He's really strong this year. So we will see what Larry's doing, but he was a good quarterback at North Carolina State. So he's quality, but we'll see. James Madison, 3.5, 50.5 to South Alabama. I like both of these teams normally. These are like my little finds. Where are they? Okay. 3.5, 50.5, down from 52.5. The Sharps betting the under in this game. We got James Madison is the A team here, and South Alabama is an E team. South Alabama got killed by Tulane. James Madison just won. I don't know. I had him as a road dog, and they won the game for me. I think at Boise or something like that. So the A team, James Madison, hard to bet against. Now, last year, South Alabama was really strong. They're not as strong this year as they seem. So I don't know, but I'll keep my eye on this one. James Madison is the A team, so don't forget that. Buffalo and Akron. Now, we got Buffalo with the over team, and Akron is the W team. We've got Akron laying 2.5, 56.5. So you got to like Buffalo because now you've got an over team playing a W team, which basically means they don't have a good offense or a good defense. Buffalo doesn't have a good defense, but they have a good offense. They got a good quarterback. So I don't see how Akron blows them out. So you get 8.5 with Buffalo. They can't, Akron doesn't have the A team. They don't have that tough defense that you'd worry about. So I think Buffalo and 8.5 is a good play here because the strong offense against the weak defense, but then their weak offense really won't hurt your strong defense. So it always goes back to art of war. We just got to check for injuries, which we will do. Lou Lafayette. I love Lou Lafayette against Minnesota. Minnesota is 11.5 down from 12.5. 48.5 up from 47. So they're thinking high scoring game now with Minnesota. All of a sudden, Minnesota's an over team. But their defense is not what it was last year. Minnesota and Illinois both lied to us. They both had under 10 defenses last year. This year, they're both in the 30s or upper 20s. Technically, I still have Minnesota as an under, and I have Lou Lafayette as an over. But after what Northwestern just lit them up, I have a hard time understanding that. I got to check the quarterbacks out, but I don't know how Minnesota blows out Lou Lafayette here. I think this is a close game. But I'm worried about Lafayette's defense, but Minnesota really doesn't have an offense to really bother them. This looks like a Lou Lafayette play, but we'll see. USC against Mr. Prime Timus. USC 21.5, 73.5. Over teams, both of them. What's going to happen with Colorado now? Are they going to score or get shut out? Except for the TCU game, they haven't really done shit. And that's because TCU didn't rush them. They just played back, thinking that Sanders was a running quarterback, which he's not. Nebraska started blitzing him. Oregon just killed him. That's where the Georgia defensive coordinator, the head coach, said, no, this is how we handle passing quarterbacks. We blitz the hell out of them. So will USC do the same thing, and are they capable? They are an over team. Oregon is not. Oregon, I believe, is an A team. Where is Oregon? Who are they playing this week? Yeah, maybe they might be off. I don't see them at first blush. Oh, they're there. They're at Stanford. Yeah, they're an A. Stanford's a W, so we'll be talking about them soon. But so what do we pick the score for? USC's got to be in the 50s here. I mean, they didn't try against Arizona State. Arizona State's third string quarterbacks were lighting them up. So if we think to our defense, we don't have any in this game. Should get an over out of it. I am not betting against SC with Colorado and 27 points. Can't do that. I can't bet and pray and hope they stay close. Either they can win or they can't. I don't think they can win. So with that said, it's either over or not, but it's so high the over. I don't know what to do with that either. 73.5, 67. I think everybody's kind of misled by that Texas Christian game. Let's figure USC easily in the 40s. I think the whole Pac-10 hates Colorado. I think they all hate primetime. He's coming in like he's going to win the conference, and they're all saying, fuck you, we're going to show you. Now we've seen Oregon do it. Now it's USC's turn. Then Washington's going to do it. Oregon State's going to do it. And I don't know if they play Utah or UCLA. They're going to do it too. Any of the good teams are going to say, fuck you, you're new here. We don't care. So 21-15. Yeah, USC probably lay 15. I just don't see Colorado stopping them. I honestly don't know how Colorado can stop them. And, this is the problem. We don't have enough data on Colorado, right? We got 3-4 games. After the first game, they got shut out by Oregon. They're at home, but that's not going to against USC. USC's going to, I don't know. They'll put up, let's say, at least 49. The only reason Oregon didn't score more is they were up 42-0. They didn't need to. USC, they'll be at 50 at halftime. The question is Colorado. So we don't want to look. This is where it gets tough. We don't want to look at last week's game and say, well, that was at Oregon. They got shut out. But then we looked at Colorado State at Colorado, and they gave 35 up to Colorado State, which makes you believe USC is going to get 50 and 60 if they want to. And Colorado had trouble scoring on Colorado State. They had trouble scoring on Nebraska. Is USC's defense that bad? And the only way is we got to go into USC. So I'm going into, let's see USC scores here. I will figure this game out if it kills me. So USC beat San Jose State 56-28. They beat Nevada 66-14. They beat Stanford, who doesn't really have it. Stanford is what? Stanford is they got Oregon. Stanford's a W team, so they don't score a lot anyway, 56-10. And then last week at Arizona State, 42-28, where defense didn't show up. Nevada doesn't have a big offense either than Stanford, so holding them to 14-10 is not a big deal. San Jose State is probably comparable to Colorado's offense. They have a really good quarterback, Corbero, good offense. So it's a similar team. So as close as we can get is week 1, 56-28 to San Jose State. So they got a 56, 66 on Nevada, 56 on Stanford, who at least is a Pac-10 school. and only 42 at Arizona, which I think there's a lot of turnovers. I think they threw a few interceptions. So with that said, you've got to be looking at least a 50 point for USC, at least 50, 50, 55, whatever, because that's what they do. They 56-10 to Stanford. Why they didn't need to put up 56 on Stanford? They could have put up 35. I mean, Stanford wasn't doing anything, but this is the way the guy coaches. So here comes prime time. So we're going to make this 56. 56 San Jose State, 56 Stanford, 66 Nevada, 42 Arizona State, at Colorado. So let's give them 56 because that seems to be their number. What does Colorado do? So let's look at Colorado. But I think we know. We've seen them enough. They seem to be on TV every week, which is really pissing off the Pac-10. So again, 45-42 to TCU, 36-14 over Nebraska. I thought it was only 29, so 36-14. A 43 on Colorado State, who sucks. They give up 35. So they gave up 42 to TCU, 14 to Nebraska, who has no quarterback, 35 to Colorado State, 42 to Oregon. So USC's clearly in the 50s here. What's Colorado? 43 against Colorado State doesn't mean anything. 36 on Nebraska, not bad. 6 on Oregon. Now you're fucking with me. 6 on Oregon. Oh my God. All right, we got to look at the stats. So Colorado, Deion Sanders, 23 of 33, 159 yards. So 23 completions for 159, a touchdown, no picks. Then he ran 10 times for a negative 34 yards. So he got sacked 10 times. Jesus. So can USC sack him? So again, it's the defense. So let's look at Oregon. Bo Nix, 28 of 33 for 276, 3 touchdowns. So we know, Williams will be, if Williams is 28 out of 33, it'll be for 500 yards and 6 touchdowns. Running, they have B. Irving, 10 for 89, some Whittingham, 40, 50, 45 yards. And receiving, Franklin, 8 for 126 and 2 touchdowns, seems to be the stud. So if we look at the box score, it's 35-0 at half, and then 42-0 after 3. And then Colorado gets this meaningless touchdown just so they can say they don't get shut out. I think it's pretty obvious here. We've got USC 56. I mean, that's conservative, probably more. What does Colorado get? We can't count Nevada. 39 on Nebraska makes sense, but then they got 6 on Oregon. Who doesn't have that big of a defense? At Oregon. So this is at Colorado. I just think USC just blitzes the hell out of them. This is what we got. So we know it's 56 to something. Is it going to be 20? Then we can go over. Or is it going to be 0 and then we lay the 21 because they won't get there? Will they not get to 70 2 games in a row? Okay, at Oregon, I can see it. And I smelled, look out Oregon's defense at home. This is at Colorado. And believe me, USC was looking ahead as badly as they played Arizona State, who's not a very good team. I thought all their quarterbacks were out, but they all played. They're all they're not even questionable. They're all doubtful, yet they all play. What the fuck? Why do you have entry listed? So, Sorry if I don't eat now. I don't eat till 4, and I haven't eaten yet. Makes me very hungry and very tired. And it's not good because I don't eat breakfast. So apologize if that offends anybody that I'm eating. I don't know. We don't see Egon and Alligator eating on their shows, but they could. All right. So we got to think a little bit more. So it's 56 to something. What does Colorado do? Tulane and UAB. Tulane's an A team, UAB's an over team, and we got our quarterback back. Mr. Bryn is back for Tulane, which is huge. He's very good. They have the one loss, Tulane, to Old Mississippi. 21. Yeah, I think Tulane kills them. UAB, now I'm shocked UAB put up 21 on Georgia. I'm shocked when anybody puts up 21 on Georgia. But, yeah, so they had to be high for that. They'll be a little flat. Tulane's got their quarterback back at home. They're an over team with an over defense. Maybe we go over on the game, 59. Again, if they can score 21 on Georgia, they can score 21 on anybody. And Tulane with the quarterback backs, explosives. This could be an over game. So I'm marking my thoughts right now. I'm not picking anything. But this is how you do it. You look at everything. So I've got the ratings in. So I know they're an A team, a Z team, whatever. And then I'm looking to go against the Z's and the W's as we get there. All right. A&M and Arkansas. We got A&M 6.5. Yeah, it was 7, same thing. And 54.5. So that was 55.5. Both teams are A teams, A&M, and this might even be in Jerry's world. He tends to have this game at Cowboy Stadium or Jerry's World or wherever the fuck you want to call it. This game tends to be there, not at Arkansas. So both teams are A. So if it's in Arkansas, then it would be a good play, as Arkansas would be a home dog. But if it's at Jerry's World, I don't know. A&M's got the quarterback. So does Arkansas. Let's see. This is an SEC game. A&M, yeah, it's in Arlington, Texas. So this is at Jerry's World. So this is a neutral site. Which is important to know because Arkansas is a home dog. This is an automatic. But now they're a road dog, and really A&M's a road favorite. So you must understand that that's what it is. A&M's got a good quarterback who's been throwing it up pretty good. I remember the Miami game. And Van Dyke lit him up pretty good, but Jefferson's not. He's kind of a runner. He can kind of throw, but he's nowhere near Van Dyke's class level. So we'll see. Over under 54.5. Now both teams, I got them as under defenses, except for Arkansas played BYU, and there was a 60-point game, and A&M played Miami to a 70-point game. So I'm not really sure that's the case. I kind of like it over at 54. I think it's kind of low. Eastern Michigan, Central Michigan, the MAC. This is where we find our diamonds in the rough. Central, 7.5, 48.5. Eastern's an under team. They don't score. They, I guess, have decent defense. Central's an over team. Plus, they put up 17 on Notre Dame, which Ohio State was lucky to do. So I kind of like Central here, laying 1.5 at home. They switch quarterbacks. This guy looks pretty good. Eastern just won't score that much. How good is their defense really? Let's take a look. So let's go into – we know Central from Notre Dame, so we don't need to look at them. Let's look at Eastern. Eastern, beat Howard 33-23. They lose to Minnesota 25-6. They beat UMass 19-7 and lose at, I guess this is Jacksonville State, 21-0. So forget the Howard game. That's 33. So this is where you have to. So they basically scored 25 points in 3 games. So they got 8. And then giving up 40, 60. They give up roughly 20-some. So they look good against Minnesota in the fact they only gave up 25 points. But Minnesota, it's terrible quarterback. UMass, another team that, is not very good. And then last week against Jacksonville State, who's also an under team, 20. So they basically played a bunch of under teams, and they beat Mass by 2 at home. The other 2 games were on the road. So what does that make them? All right, well, look at Central. Central loses to Michigan State 31-7. New Hampshire, the 45-10. 41-17 to Notre Dame, which we dread, and then they beat South Alabama 34-30. That's really impressive. Yeah, so I think they switched quarterbacks, and the fact they played Notre Dame and Michigan State should help them here. Yeah, so I like Central in this game. With the strong offense going against an under defense, so I'm just going to circle Central. And again, they're an over team, which is what so we want to bet. If you have a good offense, if that's your strength against a weak defense, and I don't think Eastern's defense is all that strong here, seeing who they played. So there you go. Central looks good. BC and Virginia. BC 3.5, 55.5. And we found another Z team in Virginia as a Z team. And it's funny, as I thought BC was a Z team. They're an over team, so they're scoring this year. Let's give them credit for that. So here you got, they're laying 3.5 to a Z team, which means Virginia can't score. Neither team's got a defense. Now, if Virginia was an over, this would be a nice overplay. Because they're a Z, they're not going to help you get the over. You don't want to bet it under because BC can score, but then it makes sense to take BC, and you're getting 2.5 against Virginia, and the game's in BC. So we need to look at the quarterback and the injuries, but this could be a good play here. See, these are the hidden plays that I get mad at when I don't play them, and then I lose the Notre Dame Ohio State over. And then the BC and the Central come in, and I'm like, what the fuck didn't I lock those for? I like the games. That's what bothers me the most is losing a lock that I know both teams have good defenses. I'm betting on Hartman and Ohio State to score, which, again, there's 4 times inside the 20-yard line. They went for it on 4th and 1 and didn't get it. That's 28 points, and I hit my over. So the theory's still right, but who did that yesterday? There's a game, I think, yesterday where it was 4th and 1 or 4th and 2, and they went and they didn't get it. And you're like trying to understand who was it? Was it the Tampa game? Might have been the Tampa game. I think that was on. I think I was watching a little of that. And 4th and 1 at their own 30 or 40, and they go and they don't get it. And you just punt the ball. Oh, my God. No. And the San Diego coach should have been fired last year. Did the same fucking thing this year. You're at the end of the game. There's 2 minutes left. You're up 4. 4th and 1 at your own 25. And you go for it. And, of course, you don't make it. And now Minnesota, all they need is a touchdown, have the ball at your 25 because you're too stupid to be a football coach. How this guy keeps his job, With all the talent San Diego has, they should have won the division at least twice. Pardon me, I got to get some more water. So, I mean, I don't get these coaches. You do not go 4th and 1 at your own 25 with 2 minutes left in the game and you're up 4 points. What are you possibly thinking? Oh, well, if we get it, we win the game. But what if you don't get it, which you didn't? And your play call was a run up the middle. Oh, yeah, I'm running into 5 big defensive linemen and linebackers. Yeah, that'll work. That's a good play. These guys are so fucking stupid. How are they coaching? And he fires the offensive coordinator for fucking up the Jacksonville game. What is this guy doing? These are not easy. On 4th and 1 at your own 25, you might get 5% of the time. They don't even understand the concept of the risk and the return. Well, if we get it, we win the game. If you punt the ball and they got to their own 20, you're going to win the game a lot more than giving them the ball to 25. Anyway, it's just stupidity upon stupidity. All right. Miami of Ohio, 15-48 against Kent State. That's down from 51. And we found another Z team in Kent State. Max got about 4 Z teams. Kent is one of them. So Miami of Ohio, we know, played Miami of Florida and got killed. Kent, God only knows. Over under 48. Miami's laying 15. They got Gabbert, the other Gabbert, Blaine Gabbert's cousin or brother or whatever. 15. How bad's Kent? They're at home. We'll see if they can score. 48 seems kind of low, but we'll see. I know Kent's bad. Normally, you'd want to take the over team against the Z team. We'll check it out. But it gives you the flavor there of we ain't taking Kent, that's for sure. So when I had Kent laying 3, I didn't realize they were the Z team. I don't know if I'd have had 15. I don't know how strong Miami of Ohio is offensively. Cal 11.5 over Arizona State. 47.5 down from 50. The Sharps are betting under early. The Sharps. We've got another Z team. Arizona State is a Z team. Now, they didn't look like a Z team against USC last week, but they are against everybody else. So they got up. This is their big game, USC. They get fired up. It's the big Super Bowl game, and they play them pretty good. Now they're going to be flat. They're at Cal, who's an over team. So you got a Z team playing an over team. Again, I don't know how high scoring this gets because I don't know how much Arizona State's going to give us. Cal, really, their quarterback sucks. They've got this running back, Ott, who played last week. They had a pretty good game last week. Let's see, what was that? Cal played Washington pretty well, 59-32, which I think's not bad, putting up 32 on Washington at Washington. They beat Iowa. They beat Idaho 31-17. They lost to Auburn 14-10 and beat North Texas 58-21. So you can see how it gets skewed. Not by the Idaho game, but by the North Texas game. 58-21. They put 31 on Idaho, but then they put 32 on Washington. Let's see if Ott played. I'm sure he must have. Yeah, 14 for 40, 1 touchdown. Passing, Findlay, 17 of 32, 2 touches and 3 picks. Then Sam Jackson, the fifth, comes in, 10 of 14, 156 yards and a touchdown. So their quarterbacks are kind of weak. But he got 14 for 40. Now what you expect. Washington, Penix, 19 of 25, 304 yards, 4 touchdowns. This guy's, but it's not really him. It's the offense. This Fresno State coach is just, if I'm like the Lions or Jacksonville or one of these pro teams, Houston, I'm taking this guy. This is a very good coach from Fresno State, the coach of Washington. He'll come in and you'll be a playoff team in like 2 years. I would draft him, and then we'll draft Penix. We'll be gold. We'll be a 12-win NFL team with this guy. So yeah, it was 45-12 at the half. Kale got 13 points in the fourth quarter when the fourth string was probably in for Washington. So I don't know how excited I am with Cal, but at home they should handle Arizona State. 47.5. I don't know. Seems like a low number. Okay, the next game, Bowling Green, Georgia Tech. We have another MAC Z team. Bowling Green, Kentucky. I had lunch there on the way back from Alabama. I saw Bowling Green. I go, I better eat here because I don't know when the next stop is on my road back to Detroit. Kentucky, there's spots where there's nothing. You get near Louisville, you're okay, and right out of Cincinnati, you're okay. But when you get down past Louisville, you got like an hour and a half of woods. So let's see. They're playing Georgia Tech, who is a over team. 22.5, 52.5. Yeah, that hasn't moved. I like Georgia Tech. Well, okay, let's look at Bowling Green. They lost to Ohio 38-7. Enough said. Ohio, have we gotten to Ohio yet? They lost to Liberty by 10, which is very good because Liberty's a strong offense. They beat Eastern Illinois, so let's get that out. But then they played Michigan, so let's get that out. And then they put up 7 against Ohio. So this is a very tough thing. You've got to toss out the Eastern Illinois game and the Michigan game, theoretically, although they held them to 31, and they got 6. But then against Ohio, they lose 38-7. In the first game, Liberty's impressive, but the rest is nothing. And then Eastern Illinois, it's hard to count. They gave up 15 there. I think Georgia Tech kills them. The last 2 games, 31-6, 38-7. Now, granted, Michigan, but Ohio. The game's at Georgia Tech. I think Georgia Tech here. Lane 23-17. It's not great, but it's okay. Indiana, Maryland. Lane 14.5 hasn't changed, and 50.5. That hasn't moved. We got Indy's an under team. Maryland is an A team. Maryland's much better at home than on the road. They did beat Michigan State pretty good last week, who is very disoriented with their coach being fired. They had a bad team anyway. Indiana, they're an under team. They played Ohio State good, but then they sucked in their other games. And Maryland seems to be a better offensive team. I don't know how good they are defensively, but lane 14, again, the Big Ten, they're much better at home than they are on the road. Case in point, Michigan, Penn State, the home team wins every time. Penn State, Ohio State, whoever's the home team, tends to play better. Doesn't win every time, but if it's at Penn State, it's a real good game. If it's at Ohio State takes care of business. But again, the home team in the Big Ten is much better. So over under 50. I don't see the over because of Indiana doesn't score. Do I see an under? Well, let's see. Maybe if Indiana doesn't score, how much is Maryland going to put up? So food for thought. Baylor and UCF. Where are you? Okay, we're on the other page. 11.5, 54.5. UCF favored. Baylor sharpens out the quarterback. So they're the second stringer is terrible. So they're an under. They don't score. They're a kind of a under team. The defense giving up 25. They played Texas fairly good. Gave up 30 points. UCF. Now, Plumlee is a very good quarterback, is out. He suspended or some injured. I don't know. He's out. I don't know how long. Their backup is not bad. I checked on him. So UCF's an 18. This is a conference game. They are now in Southwest Conference. 11.5. AU. So depending on UCF's backup, which we'll have to check. Let's check last game here. Let's see how he played. So last week, they lose to Kansas State, 44-31. And it was Timmy McClain. That's who it is. And he was 14-24, 3 touchdowns, 1 pick. They don't really, they have Richardson who ran 76 yards. Not bad. K-State, Howard played, good game. Kansas State, make a note, has this running back Giddens, 30 rushes, 207 yards. So I got to make a note when I find K-State. That's what you want to see is they got this running back running for 200 yards. Come on, K-State, where are you? I don't know. I'll put it up to the side. Because then it gives you balance. It's harder to defend. So Howard's a good quarterback, and then you got this guy, Giddens. Now, if you get both of that, good luck stopping him. So, it's tough winning at Kansas State, even for Oklahoma, Texas. They don't normally win there. Where are we at? Baylor, UCF. So, I don't know. The other quarterback's not bad. We'll have to see. Baylor's just bad. Baylor's probably an under team. I had them under against Texas. A wise move is Texas with that defense that shut Alabama down. So I like that play. So I went with Texas under. Now we got what do we do with UCF? Baylor, is that also an under, because Baylor's not going to score much, but their defense isn't that bad. Shapen, I don't know. He's due. It was late September. Now it's August or October, so we'll see. Marshall, 13.5, 46.5 against Old D. Old D's an E team, so I don't know what to call them. They score 25, give up 24, 25, 26. So they're not enough to be a B team, and they're not bad enough to be a W team. So you're going to get mid-20s in their game against Marshall, who's a B team. Marshall's very strong defensively every year. Decent offense, laying 13.5, 46.5. Probably I just like Marshall playing under games. They play very good, strong defense. Old D doesn't have a big offense to really put it on. 46.5. You can go under 52. It's not great, but it's okay. Ball State, Western Michigan. Do we have another? We have a double Z team. Both of these teams are Z teams. Boy, the MAC sucks this year. Somebody asked me about them. What do I think of the MAC? Well, I think there's 5 Z teams that can't score 20 points in the conference. That's what I think of the MAC. I mean, this is just pathetic. Now, is this because of this NLI where they're paying these players? And the MAC teams obviously don't have money. So they're getting weaker quarterbacks, running backs, stuff like that. I don't know. I hope not, but the only team with a good quarterback is Toledo with Penn. Well, let's see. So Z against Z. The spread's even. And 51.5. This could be an under. Because neither team can score points. So the fact they have weak defenses, it only works if you have a strong quarterback or a strong offense. So if Oklahoma's playing Western, they're going to put up 56-0. But Ball State, they're not going to really. What are they going to do against them? Put up 13, and then Western puts up their 13, and it's 13-13. Arkansas State and UMass. Another Z team in Arkansas State. Now, keep in mind, now this is about, 4 weeks in. They've played the high school teams. Some of these teams have been playing USC and Michigan. And so, what do we got here? We got an even game. UMass is an over team. An over team playing a Z team in an even game. So you got to take UMass here, getting 6 points at home against Arkansas State, who can't score. It's a tough one, but that's the theory. So the theory is you should take UMass because they're an over team. They've been scoring. They scored on our New Mexico State game. That still haunts us, but that's all I can say. I don't know. Probably we have better games we can bet on. Michigan, Nebraska. Back to page 1. Michigan 17.5, 40.5. Michigan's an A. Nebraska's an under. Now, Nebraska's quarterback Sims has been hurt, and Heinrich Himmler came in, and all of a sudden they're laying 20 and winning. I don't know what to make of Heinrich Himmler, except for he was a Nazi. Michigan 17.5, 40.5. Well, we know Nebraska's got a good defense. They held primetime to 30 points, but Michigan doesn't throw the ball like Colorado does. Michigan's going to run it down your throat, play that strong defense, slowly, Will Nebraska score? I almost think the line's so low that I would take Michigan here. All I could do is win by 11. I don't think they'll be that low scoring. I think they'll be in the 30s, just running it down their throat. Maybe a pick 6 or something. We got to check the quarterback, but this looks like I can actually take Michigan. Normally I don't. They're laying 35. The over-under's 50. I bet it under, and they play a 35-7 game. So I've cashed under every week with them, but you made the under 40. And I don't know that I like it with Nebraska's scoring lately, the new quarterback. So I kind of am leaning more towards Michigan. Navy, South Florida. Navy, 4.5 up from 3.5. 54.5 up from 52.5. Navy's an under team. South Florida's an over team. So South Florida can maybe score on Navy. Are they going to be able to stop Navy? We got to research Navy, and we got to research this game a little bit more. I like Navy to win the game because Navy. Well, let's take a look at the Navy. I always love the Navy. They lost to Memphis 28-24. They beat Wagner, and they lost to Notre Dame. So, okay, they lost to Hartman. Does South Florida have a Hartman? But then Memphis has a good quarterback, and they played them 28-20. So the only game they won is Wagner. So they did play good against Memphis. So are they getting better? Let's check it out. Ty Lavati, the quarterback, 10 of 19, 133 yards and a touchdown. They are throwing the ball, them and Army. And then Tezka, 15 rushes, 163 yards. So Navy's found the running back. What did Memphis do? Hennigan, 23 of 35, 218 yards, one touch, one pick. And this Watson ran 10 times for 169. Overall, Navy did pretty well. Let's see. Do I have a South Florida here? Let's look at what South Florida, as long as we're here. South Florida lost to Western Kentucky 41-24. Lost to Alabama, we remember 17-3, and then they beat my Rice team 42-29. Let's look into the details. So Rice, Daniels, 27 of 43 touchdowns, but then Paddock came in 7 of 10. I don't know if he got hurt or he's a runner. He's not much of a runner, 3 of 10. Daniels might have got hurt. He was 3 for minus 23, so he got sacked 3 times. Maybe he got injured. USF, B. Brown, 22 of 29, 435 yards. Oh, my God. 2 touchdowns. Holy shit. And then Ben Brown rushing 14 for 82. Boog Powell, 9 for 55. Wow. The Simmons, 8 catches, 272 yards, and a 53-yard touchdown. Wow. So this is why you read the box scores. Who is B. Brown? 22 of 29 for 435. Wow. And that was against Rice, who's not the greatest team, but still, the game was at USF. So here you got Navy. I honestly think this is an over game now that I look at it because, part of the reason that, Navy did put up 42, but then Wagner doesn't count. And then the Memphis game was a 60-point game, right? Memphis was 28-24, so that was a 52. You can't count Wagner, and then Notre Dame puts up 42 on them. So this should be a 30-point game, 54-48. I like the over here. South Florida, you got a guy throwing 435 against Rice. The Texas quarterback didn't do that. So I don't know. Navy's under, let's look at the Memphis game because that's about the only game you can look at. And if you look at Notre Dame, they gave up 42. But then if you look at Memphis, it was a 52, 24-28. So they gave up 28. That doesn't really make them an under. What gets the problem is the Wagner game, 24-0, makes them look like an under. But they gave up 42 and 28. So they're not really an under. So I like this game over here. Navy, South Florida. See, this is why this is a master's level class and not the regular. You only learn that here. This is very high level picking right now. All right, so we've got Illinois, Purdue. We've got Purdue 1.5. Where are they? Purdue 1.5, 53.5 hasn't moved. Illinois is an under team, but even that I don't think so. Kansas played them to a 50. Purdue is a W, so they got a bad defense, but I remember the Fresno State game 39-34. Illinois, so we got to check their quarterback out, but basically 53. All right, is Illinois an under team? Because they play the high school team. So they play Toledo 30-28, Kansas 34-23, Kansas wins, Penn State 30-13, and Florida Atlantic 23-17. So yeah, 40 to Florida Atlantic, 43 to Penn State, the 57 to Kansas, and the 58 to Toledo. Now, Kansas and Toledo are strong offensive teams. Penn State, this is where 30-13, a 43. Florida Atlantic played it to a 40. It's hard to go over here. Let's look at the quarterback. Who the fuck quarterback for Illinois? Altmaier, that's the reason he sucks. 25-36, 303 yards and a touch, but he's got like 8 interceptions so far this year. So they're not really scoring a lot, Illinois. So I can't play this over. 23-17 to Florida Atlantic. Oh, my God. Northern Illinois, Toledo. Is this another? Toledo's the A team, and Northern Illinois is the under team. Normally, these two teams are playing for the championship, maybe with Ohio. These are the big 3 studs. Once in a while, a Western or a Central Michigan gets in, but Toledo usually is the best team. They're the A team. Northern Illinois, the under. 12.5, 49.5, down from 13.5. Got to check the injuries. Under team Northern Illinois. So Toledo scores a lot. I don't know. We'll have to look into it. It's not an obvious. I think I like Toledo under 7 at home because I don't think Northern Illinois is going to. They have, I think, Lombardi from Michigan State. He was a quarterback at Michigan State. He's not looking real good. He's thrown a lot of picks when I look at the quarterback stats. So I think Toledo wins this one. Again, you don't want to force the over-unders, right? You're not trying to force them. They've got to just come. Right? USC, we're going to play them over. Normally, yes. Kansas, yeah. So you got to understand the over and the under teams. Iowa State, Georgia, under. So I made a good call last week on the Washington State. I took them as a home dog, not the under, and it was a 65-point game with Oregon State, which I never would have thought of. So sometimes you can play the totals, and then sometimes they're like now they're not going the way they should. But I sure as hell can pick the teams if I need to. I'm trying to pick the best play of the game. So I think Toledo might be the best play. We'll see. Houston, Texas Tech, 10, 52.5. Down from 53.5. Houston's an even team, and so is Texas Tech. Houston lost to Rice. They beat UTSA, who we thought was a good team, who apparently, losing Frank Harris, they look like shit. Houston, not much defense. Texas Tech, they played Oregon 38-31 at home. So they're, again, much better at home, as is Oregon, as is most of these teams. Except for Georgia. It doesn't matter where they play. Let's see. Even. So Texas Tech -10. I don't know if I could trust them. They lose at Wyoming, play Oregon pretty tough at home. Over under 52.5. Probably in a Texas Tech game, this is a good over against Houston. The quarterback on Houston's not very good. Texas Tech is a good quarterback. Again, we got to check injuries. There we go. Georgia. Well, we know they're an A team. Auburn. We've got Auburn as an A team with asterisk. Over under 46.5. So I, of course, jumped to the under with Auburn and Georgia. We know Georgia with a strong defense, so we got to let's look at Auburn. How are they an A team? Probably very deceivingly. Yeah, they beat UMass 59-14, and then they beat Cal 14-10. Then they beat Sam F. Who the hell was Sam F? Samford, I guess. I don't know. It says Sam F. So it's not a Division I team. So we throw them out. So in the 3 games they played, and if we want to keep UMass 59-14, look at the Cal game 14-10, and we look at the A&M game 27-10. Throw out Sam F because they're high school. That leaves us with the Mass game 59-14, against UMass. So in the 2 games, it was 27-10 and 14-10. So we love the under here because we know what Georgia. Now, Georgia scored a lot last week, but that's okay. I don't mind Georgia getting in the 40s. We had an over-under of 60. It's the 21 they gave up to UB that bothered me. Because normally, like here, Auburn gets 10 on A&M, 14 on Cal. I don't expect much out of them. Let's look at their quarterback. Auburn, Peyton Thorne from Michigan State, 6-12 for 44 yards. This is against Texas A&M, not against Georgia. Then they brought in Griner, 2 for 7. Ashford, last year's quarterback, 1 of 4 for 4 yards. Oh, my God. Then we say, well, do they have a running back? Thorne rushed 11 times for negative 34. So I guess those were sacks. I guess that's how they're going to call them. Batty, 8 for 59. No big running backs. So, yeah, Batty looks like he's a receiver. Now let's see. Wegman, 8 of 14 for 70 yards. Ooh, this A&M guy. Johnson comes in. Now, I don't know if Wegman got hurt. 7 of 11 for 123. This guy's better than Wegman. Moss ran 15 for 97. So A&M ain't that good either. Now I might be liking Arkansas after seeing this. I thought this Wegman was really good, but he had a tough time against Auburn, so maybe not. That's why you read the box scores of more common opponents. Right now we got to throw out the high school because they're skewing our stats. I guess in the NFL, it's like if they play the Bears or Houston, you throw that out. Did Dallas really lose to Arizona? My man, Dak Prescott. What a shitty quarterback. And this is why I say it. He just lost to Arizona. Even the Giants beat her. Oh, my God. That's the method of my madness. You guys think Dak Prescott's good. Then he does that shit, and then how good do you feel after betting Dallas and losing? I did not bet Dallas. I had the under. And like I said in that poll, one of my guys has where it's even. It's pretty big money with what he's telling me. So I'm giving him the pick for a percentage. And so we're 3-0. We had KC because they were playing the Bears. And I don't take Dallas because I don't like Prescott. And I don't take Jacksonville because I don't trust Trevor Lawrence. So we had KC. This week we're playing San Francisco. If you're interested in that 0 pick, just pick them. Frisco got the message. Hey, they just beat Dallas. We got to take them seriously. and look for a big win from Frisco. They're not going to lose there. Arizona shot their load. They beat Dallas. Okay, we see what Joshua Dobbs is. He's not much. Frisco will be ready. Anyway, so love the Georgia game under. What else is new? I don't think Auburn scores, but I think their defense is good enough to make it a competitive game. Well, let's take a look. We can look at the history. How did these two teams play? Last year, Georgia won 42-10, a 52. This is a 46, would be a 52. At Auburn, Georgia won 34-10, a 44. At Georgia, 27-6. At Auburn, 21-14. At Georgia, 27-10. So we see all low-scoring games for the last 6 years. Then it was 40-17. Georgia won the last 6, 2, 4, 6. And they're all 27-10, 27-6. So Georgia doesn't put up a 50 on them. And Auburn puts up 10 a lot. 42-10, 34-10, 27-6. So the last 2 years when Georgia's had this defense, Auburn doesn't do shit against it. So this should be a very live under. Now we get to my favorite play of the day, Texas and Kansas. They're both A teams. Kansas has killed BYU. They went into Illinois and won. Texas, we know, they went to Alabama to win very impressively. 17-63.5. This over-under went up from 62 to 63. And I'll tell you, I don't like the over in this game at all, based on both these teams have defenses. 17, I'm leaning towards Kansas in 23. They're going to be hard to stop. They have a very good offense. Their defense, they played BYU very tough. I watched those highlights yesterday. Texas had trouble with Rice. They beat Alabama by 10. I think Kansas is better than Alabama. I don't think Alabama's all that good. Their defense came up last week because Ole Miss had their heads up their ass with these jet sweeps and such bad play calling from the guy who supposedly is a good play caller, the Lane Kiffer. Superficially, I like Kansas in 23. I had 17 as the line, but after watching Kansas BYU beat Arkansas. I'm expecting them to beat Kansas, and Kansas, there was a hit on Kansas. I'll get this guy's name. They're running around and this safety comes up and just nails this guy. Fumbles, picks it up, runs it in for a touchdown. What a fucking hit. This guy just, he just came up and hit him square in the chest, and the guy fumbled, and that was it. And the guy, and picked it up, ran it in. So Kansas has some defense. They have some talent. They're not like 5 years ago. They are a very strong team. Like I said, they're an A team. They've been an over team, but now they've got a defense. We know they have an offense. Would I be surprised if Kansas won the game? That's a good question. I don't know. As much as I like Kansas, it's their offense. Okay, so let's look at Kansas. Well, I think we already know. They beat BYU 38-27. They beat Nevada 31-24 on the road. I don't know what happened there. They beat Illinois 34-23. And then the high school game. So they've scored in the 30s the last 3 games, Illinois, Nevada, BYU. And they give up in the 20s to those 3 teams. So what is Texas? I think we know Texas. Yeah, they beat Baylor 38-6, Wyoming 31-10 after the Alabama win 34-24, and then the Rice game. So they scored in the 30s every game, not in the 40s. I mean, they could have smoked Wyoming. They should have smoked Rice. And then Baylor, pretty good smoking there. Alabama, 34. Alabama, you got 24 on them. Wyoming and Rice, 10, and Baylor, but they're not in Kansas's class. And I don't think Alabama's in Kansas's class. I think Kansas has a better offense. So the only thing we can do, let's look at the history here. I guess we can only go back the last 2 years, really. Texas won 55-14. Kansas won 57-56. And Texas won 50-48. And then Texas won 24-17. So I don't know what happened last year, but these have been extremely close games. 57-56 Kansas and 50-48 Texas. Oh, so it was a revenge game last year because Kansas beat them 57-56. All right, so that explains the big win. Ewers was 12 of 21 for 100 yards. That's it. That was last year's game. And, Bijan Robinson ran for 243 yards. He's on Atlanta now. Kansas had Daniel 17 of 26 for 2 touchdowns, 230. And they couldn't run the ball. So it was all Bijan Robinson running last year. They don't have a Bijan Robinson this year. So this should be a close game. I definitely like Kansas in 23. They play them very well. 2 out of the last 3 have been 2-point games, and they score 50 on them. Interesting. And Kansas's offense looking very good right now. Daniels, played him last year, played him this year. He's a good quarterback. He's mobile, and he can pass well. But if they get down, he can still throw. But 23, big number. So keep in mind they're both A's. Kansas has been better defensively, and their offense is really very strong. Texas, very good defense. So I don't see how you play this game over, except for the fact that the scores have been high the last 3 years. But I think you have a better defense in Kansas this year. Okay. Wyoming, 14.5, 41.5 over New Mexico. New Mexico is actually an over team, and Wyoming's an E team. We just said they lost to Texas 31-10. We know against Texas Tech they won 34-33 or something like that. 14.5. I don't know. Probably better things to bet on. Vegas, 10.5. Where are you, Vegas? Vegas, 10.5, 59.5. Hasn't really moved. Hawaii is a W team. They can score, and they have no defense. Vegas is an over team. I like Vegas here. Well, I like the over also. Vegas can score a lot, no defense. Hawaii, we've seen score a lot, no defense. So I think this is a good over. This is going to be one of those 40-30 games. And we got to go only over 54. So this is a very good over. Boise and Memphis. We've got Memphis by 3.5, 59.5. Memphis is the A team. Boise is an over team. I'm not sure how strong of a defense Memphis has, but And again, Memphis 3.5 at home. Boise, normally a pretty good dog here. So I don't know. I got to think about this. Missouri Vanderbilt, Missouri 13.5 and 56.5. Missouri's a B team and Vanderbilt's an O team, a kind of a weak team, but they are an over. Again, with Hawaii, with Wake Forest, they haven't really played the strong teams, I don't think. Missouri, Cooks, good quarterback. Swan, a good quarterback for Vandy. Probably an over 56. I don't know that Missouri's defense is that strong. LSU, Ole Miss. LSU 2.5, 67.5 up from 64. Again, Vegas fucks the lineup. Both teams are A teams, although after watching Mississippi last week, I'm questioning that. An A team would have taken care of Alabama, not played like shit. LSU 2.5. I like the over in this game. Again, depending on which Mississippi team shows up. LSU will light them up. There's no question they'll score big on them, which then leads you to how much will Mississippi score. Now, they just got killed by Alabama. Played like crap. So we will see what they do here. But I think LSU beats them. I like Brian Kelly. I think he can score. I just don't like their quarterback. I'd rather see him with the Joe Burrow, I'll tell you. Although it's interesting, none of the Notre Dame guys came over. One went to Arizona State. I don't know where the other one went. He was a difficult coach, Brian Kelly. Okay, so a little bit of a cantaloupe, avocado, one little chicken breast, healthy lunch. So LSU 2.5. I like LSU in 3.5, I think. And I like the over 67 to 61. I liked it better at 64, but it shot up. So you got to be careful. Very big game for LSU. They can't afford to lose after losing to Florida State. Here we go. Oregon, 26.5, 61 to Stanford. Oregon's an A team. Stanford's a W. Weak offense, weak defense. Oregon should light them up. Very emotional game for Oregon last week, beating Prime. Now they go to Stanford, so there's always that little bit of flat. This is a big rivalry. It used to be when Harbaugh was there. Against Chip Kelly, this was always like for the Pac-10 title and everything. Now it is. Now Stanford sucks. Oregon, we've seen on the road, has struggled with Texas Tech, so they're a different team on the road. I don't know about the over because I don't know what you're going to get from Stanford. They're a very weak offensive team. They're a W there. So if they're a W, then you don't get a lot of offense and no defense. So Oregon probably should kill them, but again, they're on the road, off an emotional game. So very tricky here. Georgia State and Troy. Georgia State, 1.5, 51.5. Georgia State's an A team. Troy's an over team. I like Georgia State, just laying one out. I like their quarterback. Troy can score, but their defense sucks. Georgia State's got a good defense, so Georgia State's the better team. Only laying 1.5 here. Over under a 52, probably an over too. Either way. Coastal Carolina, Georgia Southern. My poor McCall, what's happening to him? 6.5, 63.5. Over went up from 62. They're both A teams statistically, but I wonder if we looked in if they are. Was it the high school team? So we really need to check that out. I think Georgia Southern, well, we got to see how they play against a good quarterback like McCall. He looked fine. He's fine this year. Oak State and Iowa State. Here we go. Or Oklahoma. Oklahoma 19 and a half, 48 and a half. We know Iowa State's an under team. I don't know what happened last week. They start hitting these long passes. Look at the box score, 63-yard touchdown, 70-yard touchdown. Who the fuck, what team are we looking at here? Oklahoma, we know, has this strong fucking defense this year. I have to play this game under, and Oklahoma does not. They're not lighting it up like they did. They had two big games against high school teams, but you don't score a lot normally on Iowa State. And Oklahoma, you're not scoring on them. I think they're giving up 8 or 9 points. Iowa State was probably it was 12. It's probably 17 after last week. Very low scoring, good defensive game. Let's check history. That'll decide this fate. Okay, here you go. The last 3 games. Oklahoma 27-13, Oklahoma 28-21, Oklahoma 27-21. So they do not play high scoring games the last 3 years. After that, it was 37-30, 42-41, but now we're getting back too much. So, yeah, I think you got to just – they play low scoring. I mean, Oklahoma had strong offense last year, 27-13. Iowa State will play them tough defensively. Oklahoma has a monster defense. So this is where the last week's game, Oak State's defense, what are they? I don't think maybe they're not playing. But Oak State had no offense. I'm getting fooled by the team gets 200 yards offense. I'm betting them under, and then they're scoring 50 points on a good defensive team, and you're like, what the fuck? Oklahoma, you don't score on, and Iowa State, you certainly don't score on. This will be a low-scoring game, and you got 48 and a half, so you got 54. That's good in an Iowa State. Anything over like 39 in an Iowa State game is worth the bet. Do we lock it? What do we do with it? But it's like it's like I got a pair of kings. I gotta play them. I got Oak State, Oklahoma, Iowa State, 48. I go under 54. I gotta play it. I'll win 19 out of 20. And I just hope this, but you can see the history. This is a low-scoring game. The only difference is Oklahoma's got a very good defense this year, which they didn't have the last few years. And even, the 2 years were with the USC coach, and they held them, even that, the strong Oklahoma teams scoring 60 points a game, they get into Iowa State, 20 points. So we've got to like this matchup, this under. Texas State and Southern Miss, 7.5, 62 for Texas State. Southern Miss is a W team. I'm going to highlight W's and X's. Well, I got to highlight Stanford. And now I got to highlight Southern Miss. Charlotte. Okay. At least they didn't eat my marker. Okay, so Southern Miss is a W team. Don't score a lot, no defense. Texas State is an over team. So you got to like Texas State here, laying 1.5 to a team that doesn't score and has no defense. Even though I score a lot and I don't have a defense, I got to look at I'm going to outscore you kind of. So there you go. Rice, 2.5, 46.5 over East Car. Well, that went from 50 to 46.5. We've got an under team in East Car, kind of, and an over team in Rice. So Rice played Texas. All right, they got killed. East Car played Michigan. They got killed. So we've got some things. We've got Rice. I like their quarterback. This is the guy who was at USC, then went to Georgia, and now is at Rice. Now he's actually playing well. Although we saw last week what Rice lost to. We mentioned that team. South Florida beat them 42-29. But now they're at home to East Car. They should win. They're only laying 2.5. That's a very low number. So I like Rice in 3.5 here. Tennessee, 11.5, 63 to South Carolina. Tennessee is what are they? They're an E team. So they score mid-20s, give up mid-20s, low 20s. South Carolina is actually an over team, but I'm not quite sure I believe that. Wow. They played Georgia 24-14. They lost. So they got 14 on Georgia. That's good. Rattler, they lost to North Carolina. So Tennessee at home, 11.5. I think they beat them. They should beat them pretty good. Hey, Luke. 1 day closer. Yep. Did you see the Egon video I posted yesterday near the end of the thing? If not, I'll replay it as soon as I'm done with the football. But you should be a happy man after seeing Egon. Like, we're very, very, it'll happen soon, but it's blowing up, and you want to. The only safety you can have is gold and silver. So if you didn't see it, I'll show it again, but I think I'm going to show it again anyway because I think it's important. And it's really just 5 minutes. I go from the 11-minute mark to the 17-minute mark. So I like Tennessee at home. I don't like Milton as much as Hooker, the quarterback. I do like Tennessee at home. Of course, I like the coach. Him and the TCU coach, very strong, and they'll score a lot. Tennessee at home, they have the loss to Florida. They must win. So that's what happens. These teams that lose a game, even though it might be 2 or 3 weeks ago, they still have the loss. They still have to win. So look for Tennessee to come in. Notre Dame and Duke. Very interesting line. Notre Dame is only 5.5-point favorites and 51.5. Both teams are A teams, and we know Duke beat Clemson, and we know Notre Dame choked against Ohio State, and they just played Ohio State. So they are emotionally flat. Now they're a road favorite, and they got to go to Duke, who laid a number on Clemson 28-7. I like Duke here as the dog. 5.5. Over under 51.5. I don't know. Duke, I mean, apparently both teams, I know Duke's got a defense. Apparently Notre Dame's got one somewhere, even though it didn't show up against Central Michigan. I think Notre Dame's coach is bad. Again, I love Hartman, and it wasn't his fault they lost. It was the coach's fault for the play calls were terrible. So I like, I think I like Duke in the 11.5. I think it's an A against A, and you take the dog, especially the home dog. Here we go. Iowa, 11.5, 36.5 to Michigan State. Both teams are under teams. I think that's an under for Michigan State, or is it a W? Either way, Michigan State's very weak. Washington killed them. Maryland killed them at home. They go to Iowa. Iowa's going to kill them. I'm not going to fuck with the over-under, but I think Michigan State gets shut out here. as bad as they looked against Washington and as bad as they looked against Maryland, Maryland does not have a good defense. I just think Michigan State's terrible. I think Iowa, they just got shut out by Penn State. Look for them to come back, bounce back big here. SMU and Charlotte. SMU, I got as an A team. Charlotte is a W. SMU, 23.5, 54.5. You can't go over because Charlotte is a W team. They don't score. So if SMU puts up a 50, it's going to be 50-10. So lay the 17.5 if that's what you think. It's a big number. I got to check out Charlotte a little more. I like to see their quarterback. But basically, SMU at home. Now, they've been, I don't know. See, that was the thing with the SMU game. So Oklahoma plays SMU 28-11. What do you think the Iowa State score is going to be? They'll be lucky to get there, but it's good offense. They hold them to 11 points. Oh, I love Oklahoma. Strong defense. Pitt VTech, Pitt 2.5, 39.5. Wow, this is 42. This was 45. It opened at 39.5, and Pitt's laying 3. Pitt's an under. Virginia Tech's an under. You got to go under, but now they've made it 39. It's a tough one, but they don't score. Both these teams kind of have no offenses. So, yeah, I think you got to go under here. App State and UL Monroe. I won with App State last week, and we're now on page 3. We've got App State, 13.5, 51.5, down from 53. App State's an over team. Lou Monroe is an under team. They're not a Z team as we would have thought. They're an under team. So they score, but they don't score a lot, but they're somewhat of a defense. But that's with the Army game and probably a high school game in there. Well, let's take a look. UL Monroe. So they beat Army 17-13. They beat Lamar 24-14, and they lose to Texas A&M 47-3. So I'm not sure if you take Lamar out, they've given up 60 points. Again, now they're skewed by the A&M game. So if you take A&M out, it's a 17-13 team. You add the A&M, they score 20 and give up 60, which puts them at 10-30, which puts Lou Monroe as a Z team. So I like App State here. TCU, West Virginia. TCU 11.5. 51.5 hasn't moved. They're both B teams. TCU is probably a little more higher scoring than West Virginia. Again, these are the stats, and again, with high school teams thrown in there, I think TCU wins pretty big. West Virginia doesn't score a lot, so I can't really go over here, but I think West Virginia, as I said, when they go to Texas, they suck, but they're better at home in West Virginia, so you got to keep that in mind. So I like TCU here. San Diego State and the Air Force, and the Air Force is 10.5, 43.5. San Diego State's a W team. They're just not scoring. Their defense is always pretty good. Air Force is an A team, as we know. I think Air Force, well, let's see how they play each other. Here's where you like looking at the history because they play each other every year. Air Force won 13-3. San Diego State won 2014, 21-17, 20. So San Diego State's won, 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, let's look. 17 and 18, San Diego State won. Then they didn't play 19 or 20. And then in 21 and 22, San Diego State wins 20-14. And then the Air Force wins 13-3 last year. So San Diego State plays them very well. So you don't want to play Air Force here. This is San Diego State, but I'm not going to play them. They're just not that good this year. Alabama, 14 and a half, 46 and a half, down from 15 and a half, 48 and a half against Old Mississippi State. Old Mississippi State's an over team, and Alabama's a B team. Score about 30 a game, giving up about 20. It's not their normal. They don't have the quarterback. And Old Mississippi State's an over. So I think Alabama. Now, this is what I was talking about, right? Alabama lost to Texas. Now, it wasn't even in the conference. But then they smoked Old Mississippi, or Old Miss, as they call it. And I think Alabama, I think they'll kill Mississippi State. I think they're going to put a lot of pressure on them like they did against Ole Miss. If Ole Miss couldn't score, 10 points on them, I don't think Old Mississippi State's going to do much better. It is a low number, 46 and a half. Again, Milrose wants to run. He can't pass. He's a terrible quarterback. So I wonder if Baltimore will draft him, put him with Lamar. I think it's Alabama. After the loss, they played really well last week. Give them credit. Win by 14. All you got to do is win by 8. Yeah, I think so. Washington, Arizona. Washington 17 and a half, 68. Washington is, as we know, is an A team. They run the Fresno State offense to perfection. Penix very hot. Arizona, I have them as a B team, but I got a question. We know what Washington State, they went to Michigan State and killed them, but we realize how weak Michigan State is. So Arizona, they got Northern Arizona in there 38-3. So you got to take that out. They lost to Mississippi State 31-24. They beat UTEP, who's not good, 31-10, and then they beat Stanford barely, 21-20. And so I don't see how you can go over. I mean, they put up 31 on UTEP, so they're not a high-scoring team. And then we got Washington, at only 11 and a half over Arizona. So they're not scoring like they did. Now, defensively, so if we look at if we throw out the Northern Arizona game, they score about 27 a game and give up 20 a game. So they're like 76 divided by 20. So it's 25. They're at 25-20, which kind of puts that's about right. That is an under defense, 20 points. Ole Miss 31. That was overtime. But then UTEP and Stanford are very weak offensive teams. So you would think Washington lights them up. In the desert, let's take a look at last year's game. Well, you got to go back a couple of years. So Washington beats them 49-39 and then 21-16. Washington's won the last 6. But we need this coach. So 21-16 in Arizona and then 49-39. But Arizona doesn't have the offense they have. I think Washington's good here. And last but not least, Nevada, Fresno State. One more Z team, Nevada. They played Kansas very well. So 1 second, Luke. 24 and a half, 50, down from 53. Nevada is the Z team. Fresno State laying the 24 is the A team. They should have no problem scoring. So I like the last 4 games. I like all 4 of them. App State, Alabama, Washington, and Fresno State. So then it's okay, we've kind of looked at them, and then it's what do we lock? What's our free picks? What do we bet on, really? Forget that. What is our bets? Out of all this, so now we've went from 75 games, went from like 60 games we like these, we like those. We found the Z teams, we found the A teams. We then want to go, we want to bet against the Z's. We want weak favorites. We want strong dogs. Do we fuck with Kansas, Texas? Do we fuck with, I think we got to go under Oklahoma, Iowa State, just because Oklahoma's defense is great. Do we fuck with the Alabama game? What do we fuck with and what don't we? And it always amazes me is the simple game. Like, okay, I like Fresno State, 24 over Nevada as a Z team. Now, if I don't play them, they win by 45. Like last Saturday, they won big. And if I do play them, then they win by 3. And you're like, this isn't happening. How could I miss on this and hit on that? Now, again, I won't bet against Alabama unless I got LSU or Georgia going forward. Maybe A&M, but I got to be careful doing that. Although I did bet Texas against Alabama, so shouldn't be that hard on myself. It's just some weeks you just have. I was red hot, like pros. I was red hot. I was like 9-2. Hit both games yesterday. Hit the lock finally. Hit the free picks. San Diego comes through. Miami goes over by 150 points, and then Dallas stays under thanks to Dak throwing the interception at the 7-yard line and keeping it under. So it's when I'm trying to get in the groove, and I feel pretty good. I hit the Dallas under on the interception, changes everything. Then I hit both games yesterday. I get a late score by the Rams to cover. Philly was easy. So now I'm starting to get the pros I should have, because now we're in week 4 and I've got, forget week 1. Now you're at week 2, week 3. Now we're getting the players. They all got pulled hamstrings, but that's what we got. And college now, I think, like now I threw out the bullshit game. What was that? Arizona? I threw out the Northern Arizona game. And now I could get to the real team. And they only score in the mid-20s. They're not scoring a lot, which you've got to do against Washington. They'll just punish you. So now I've got to go to the next level. I got to look at injuries. I'm not going to do that now. It's already been 2 hours, and I'm tired. Sorry, Professor. I had to jump off there for a work call. Don't know if you had anything to say on gold. Yeah, I'm going to show you the article on it, Luke. Let me know you're there, and I'll go to it. Injuries I'll look at on my own and report back. Tomorrow we'll look at the pros. And tomorrow's Wednesday. We have a Thursday night game. The Lions favorite at Green Bay. Good luck with that one. I mean, that seems such a simple Green Bay pick. And then there's a lot of strange dogs. There's a lot of strange. The Giants are favorite over Seattle. Are they out of their minds? Why? They don't have a defense. They don't have an offense. They suck. They'll never win by a lot. One day closer. Okay, Luke. So that's college football. I don't have free picks and locks yet. I just am digesting what I just read. I have to check injuries. So like we said, Cam Rising, we assume until the Ram doctor lets him play. Why he makes the decision is what I'm looking into, but it doesn't really matter. If it's his decision, then there's nothing we can do. So you assume he's out, and we don't know till Saturday morning. So to stop all this bullshit, Cam Rising will not know until Saturday. It's up to the Ram doctor because he did the surgery. He probably doesn't want him to play because of USC. We'll see. With Rising, I think Utah. I think it's Georgia and Utah. Then you got Florida State. And now, yes, I don't think Ohio State's that good. But Notre Dame, I thought was good, but they got the Tampa coach. So I don't know what the fuck they're doing. How they lost that game is a joke. They didn't use Hartman well. They played good defense. They held them at the 1 and the 10, but they didn't. They should have put up 35 points on this team. You need to run it more, and they had the running back, and they didn't run them. Okay, Luke, we are going to go to Egon von Egonis.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are back with our monthly Matterhorn interview, and today it's really a harsh fight against the technology. Egon, I'm glad to see you after 2 months.
Okay, ready, Luke? Here we go.
Set by the manipulated Western markets where there is just paper gold, or primarily, not just, but primarily paper gold traded and not physical. And this is what we've been expecting for a long time, Jan. We know that the gold price is set totally in the paper market. That dwarfs the size of the physical market. And and we've been talking about before that once people ask for delivery, which is what they're doing in China, then there isn't enough physical gold around. Remember that there are 3,000 tons roughly produced annually, plus a bit of scrap of gold. And that's in today's market, which is a slow market, not with a high demand. It's a good constant demand, but no panic demand and no excess demand. But all of that 3,000 tons plus the scrap gold, a bit over 1,000, is being absorbed by the market every year with the price staying at the highs, more or less. And therefore, when people who hold paper gold ask for delivery, there just won't be any physical gold. We know that. And the only way then that this physical demand can be satisfied is not by producing more gold, because we can't produce more gold in the world. We are more or less at peak gold. And therefore, the only way it can be satisfied is, of course, by higher prices. People will got less gold for the same amount of money, because they have to pay a lot more for it. And that's what we're going to see that in the next few years. We know that was going to come. We have been patient, Jan, for many years, and rightly so. But we know that supply cannot. When supply cannot meet demand, which is what's going to happen in the physical market, then there will be a price squeeze, and that's absolute certainty. When it comes, it doesn't matter. We sit here safely with our gold, and we're insured, and we're just waiting for that moment to happen. In the meantime, we don't worry about the price.
I think this is something that will happen in the USA also. Let me read what Bai wrote. He is a Chinese analyst, and he wrote also on Twitter: the Shanghai price is the real price of physical supply and demand, while the price of COMEX is the false price, because large numbers of naked shorts is false supply. So there is no comparability between the two price systems. That is exactly what you just said, Egon. And an article, Kitco, also used this fact and wrote an interesting article. You find this in the box also. Quote from there: China is the biggest gold consumer on the planet. It is the biggest gold importer. It's the biggest gold refiner. It's the biggest jewelry market and one of the biggest investment markets. It has the potential to grow, he said. What happens in China doesn't stay in China. Yes, probably it will happen everywhere. Not to mention that the Chinese economy is also in turmoil. We talked about that in the past, Evergrande and the whole real estate bubble there. It is also a physical demand from people, as everywhere, trying to protect their savings.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And when you say that the real price is in China, well, it is. I would even argue that it isn't even the real price, because we haven't seen the real price yet. Because the real physical demand for gold that will come because of the fact that the paper holders of paper gold will ask for delivery. That will show the real price of gold. That will show that the world cannot deliver that gold that is necessary to satisfy the outstanding paper claims. And that's what's going to show us at some point. I'm not saying when, because we've waited a long time, but it will happen. Then we will see the real price, and that will be very, very different to what we're seeing today. And of course, to say the Chinese, they are massive savers. Okay, times are tough in China now. It's not really easy for the consumer even there. but still they save a major percentage of their income, and they also many of them buy regularly gold, which the West hasn't started yet with. No individual in the West buys gold on
Except
a
for
regular
us.
basis. And we know that it's only 0.5% of world financial assets in gold anyway. So that will come also. And therefore, but you and I don't need to sit here and talk up gold. We know that it's the only safe way of protecting your wealth. It's the only money that has survived in history. So we can just sit on our gold and advise investors to do the same. And just be patient, because the market will take care of the rest. Whenever that happens, if it's tomorrow or in a week's time or in a month or in a year's time, it doesn't really matter when it happens, because when you are protected, you don't have to worry about the price.
That's right. We cannot talk the gold price up, Egon. We can only bring people into the direction to take precautions and protect their own wealth. Even it is a bit boring to wait so long, but as I always say, rather stay in these times while it's still quite organized, because when the gold price moves to 10,000, it will look differently. Final word, Egon, for today?
Yes, remember that the gold price in itself is just a reflection of the total mismanagement of the financial system and the massive issues of debt. So it's just a consequence, and it's all throughout history. It has always reflected this mismanagement and the fact that all currencies go to zero over time without fail. So that's why people should just sit tight, because we are likely to have the biggest financial crash in the world or in world history in coming years. Don't know when, but the risk is that it can happen at any time, or it can take a number of years. And it really doesn't matter. When you know that a fire is coming, you buy your fire insurance today, and you just sit on it and don't worry about it. And what a wonderful fire insurance. This is real. You're holding on to real gold, which is actually, it doesn't disappear. It doesn't lose value. It actually increases value as the problems mount. So it's the simplest hedge you can buy in the world, and the best hedge you can buy. And that, we're not gold bugs. I'm not a gold bug at all. I just see it as the best way of protecting yourself, your family, your investors, if you have. And that's why we are trying to inform people here. Well, that's what they need to do, Jan.
That's what we continue to do. A fire insurance that survives.
Fire insurance. Okay, Luke, are you happy now? Okay, 226 trillion of debt is not correct. It's about 275 trillion in the world. I don't know where 16 billion ounces of gold. Let's call it 244,000 tons. So I'm dealing in tons because I don't deal in ounces. But that's, is there a point to those numbers, Luke? 16 billion ounces of gold. Is there a point to that? Because if we have 244,000 tons, central banks buy tons. Russia's got 35,000 tons. China 60. Let's call it 65,000 tons by now. That's 100,000 of the 244,000 tons is Russia, China. Then there's India, there's Saudi, there's the rest of the central banks buying it up, and they're buying 300 tons here, 500 tons here. They're loving the low price, and then the only one not buying it is the U.S., amazingly. So what Egon basically said is the paper price, which is what you look at, Luke, instead of I tell you not to, that's the COMEX, that's the paper price. There's a lot more paper gold than physical, and we don't care about paper gold. That's what I keep trying to explain. It's a fantasy. It's to keep the price low so nobody's interested, because JP Morgan prints this and doesn't want competition. So he keeps printing it, and the American public are the biggest bunch of idiots in the world. I don't know why they believe anything the government says. They don't understand gold, and so they keep in dollars, or they'll run and buy stocks. I showed you on Mark McGuire, and one of these had 1 trillion ounces of, no, I think it was this one. So here, Bill Halter, bank deposits are down $1 trillion. So $1 trillion have left the bank. And where did they go? They went into bonds and they went into, I don't know, stocks, but they're not going into gold. So keep that in mind. So you get out, the banks are all going to collapse because of the high interest rates. So we'll end up with some banking system where we'll use a new currency, a new medium of exchange to buy groceries and go to the dinner and do stuff like that. We got to do something or the casinos will close, and we can't have that happen. We got to be able to bet football and play poker. So there'll be a new currency, but if it's not backed by gold, it goes to zero. As Egon said, they all go to zero every time, which is what I told you at the airport. And you asked me, well, how about 10%? I go, no, it goes to zero, because once it starts, you can't stop it until it's gone. Well, it's not 22,000 per ounce. It's 32. There's 32,000 ounces in a ton. So if you want to take 244,000 times 32,000 ounces, if you can even get that number, that's how many ounces there are, but who cares? I mean, it doesn't mean anything. 22,000 per ounce. I don't get that. If you divide them, $22,000 per ounce, I'm confused. There's 32,000 ounces in a ton. There's 244,000 tons times the 32,000 ounces. If you want to do that to figure out how many ounces, but who cares? I mean, 244,000 tons is fine, but it doesn't mean anything. It's like I said, between China and Russia, they got 100 of them. That leaves you 144, and then all the other central banks are buying. As he said, you've got to now have these paper golds. You must be able to take delivery, which you can't. So you have that problem going. Anyway, it doesn't matter. Everything's collapsing. The dollar, the inflation, the recession's here. It's just go buy as much gold as you can. I bought another quarter ounce and 0.2 of an ounce. Got me to 55 ounces. I was 54.90, so it got me to 55. That doesn't include the 2 I gave to Jenna. So I really got 57, but I gave them to her. So that's okay. And we already know. I mean, it's the only safe haven. It's the only, that's why I use the Titanic. It's sinking. The dollar's sinking. There's the gold boat. Go swim to the gold boat and you'll be fine. And right now we're at the stage where people maybe are starting to understand the Titanic sinking because it's an unsinkable ship. Like the dollar, the U.S. is too big to fail. Bunch of bullshit, right? It's a stupid term. So because the Titanic couldn't sink, nobody believed it was going to sink till the water's up to their waist in the hallways, and they're going, "Oh fuck, I guess we are going to sink." And then it was the panic, and that's what we're about to get to. We hit the iceberg, and people are starting to see the water, and then then we'll see the big run to gold. And we'll be sitting there going, okay. Like he just said, 10,000 an ounce on its way up to, I say 50,000 an ounce on its way to nothing dollar per ounce to just gold being priced in gold. That's my whole Bitcoin theory. You can't price Bitcoin in Bitcoin. You can price it in dollars. Gold, you don't need the dollars to price it. You can price gold in gold, and that's exactly what I'm saying. So it doesn't matter if the dollar goes out, gold will then be worth even more because it's so limited. as you said, so there's 244,000 tons. There's a whole lot more people and central banks that own it in Russia and China. So the regular person's not going to have how much, gold's going to be out there to even get, and then it'll be at a very high price. So that's what we already know. So that's why I say just go buy more and buy as much as you can. I think of it as a bridge. Excuse me. So I have to keep enough dollars. My whole logic is I have to keep enough dollars in the safe to pay the bills so I don't have to cash in my gold until the gold price goes up. Once the gold price goes up, I'm kind of screwed because then I'll have the dollars that'll be, well, they won't be worthless, but this will be curious what happens. So will my Fifth Third account go zero? Will it stay open? Will they convert to a new currency? I know the euro and the yen are both coming out with new currencies in 2024. Obviously, the inflation is going to kill them, but they'll say, oh, the Russians are stealing it. We need new paper crap, which won't last because nobody will have confidence in the new dollars. The new dollars are the same if they're not backed by gold. So the biggest point I want you to get out of this class, and you tell your kids, and you tell all your family, is, and if you can get them to listen, this is only good if it's backed by gold. If this is not backed by gold, it'll always go to zero, and it's always worthless paper. That's the most important thing I can teach you in life, far above anything I can tell you about women, football, or anything else from an economic standpoint. If the dollar is not backed by gold, it's worthless. It will go to zero. So all you can do is own as much gold as you can now, and then see what the new currency looks like. Even if it's a CDBC, if it's not backed by gold, it's worthless. Just because it's digital doesn't mean it's money. Doesn't mean it's got a value. It's worthless until it's backed by gold. And I don't think a CBDC is not gonna hang around long if they have it at all, which I have no idea. If they do have it, are we going to be able to still have our money? This will be interesting. In my view, yes, because there's a lot of people with money. So let's take Warren Buffett. He's got what, $2-3 billion in cash. You think he wants to turn it in for CBDCs so people can track him? Fuck no. And you got all these people, all these LeBron and Brady. They don't want anybody knowing. Look at this Epstein idiot, and all those type of people. The government officials, they don't want to be tracked. So I think there'll be CBDCs over here, and then I think there'll be money over here. And I think you'll have the money in your account. You'll still use your debit and credit card, I believe. The credit cards will all go to zero. You won't owe anything on them because that cash is gone. So they'll either reprice it in the new cash or something, I don't know, or just wash it out because all the assets will be worthless. So what's your car going to be worth? Nothing, because if there's no dollars, so you own a Mercedes and you price it at $50,000, right? If there's no dollars, what's the price of your Mercedes? Zero. Now, are you going to reprice it in gold? Probably. So if I walk up and give you 1.5 ounces of gold, you'll probably take it for the Mercedes. So now the prices start turning into gold prices. Now it's going to be hard at the grocery store to get my Canadian Club. How are you going to price this in gold? I'll give it to you for 1 ounce of silver. but now silver's $2,000-3,000 an ounce. Now what do you buy it for? So that's what the problem is. You'll have to start pricing things in silver and gold. That's going to be the real challenge. If I want to fly to Europe, how am I going to, how am I going to go? I mean, I'll have the money to go, but and then I think, well, are they really going to put the airline industries out of business and Coca-Cola out of business? And the car companies are on their way to going out of business because they can't sell cars with this interest rate. It's like anything else. If I'm selling you a pen for $2 and all of a sudden it's $100, how many pens am I going to sell? None. Nobody's going to give me $100 for a $2 pen. And that's basically what you have in the housing and car markets. Now the car is $1,000 a month. Nobody can afford it. And houses are probably $5,000 a month. Nobody can afford it because you're not getting more in your income. My income's staying where it's been, and now my costs have all gone through the roof. That's the other reason with gold. Gold will keep that for you. Gold will say, no, here we are. You've got gold. You've got protection, Superman. And that's really the key to gold, and that's really the key to why I push it. And when Bobby asked about real estate, it's like, what part of going to gold are we not catching? Because that's really what if you just clearly understood that, there wouldn't be any other option for you. And I do get mad when Egon says nobody in America is collecting gold or buying gold. And I'm like, I go every week or two, I'm buying gold or I'm buying silver every Friday, every Saturday. Even if I'm not working, I can find $100 to buy 4 silvers. So that's kind of what I look for is so I do buy it, and I believe you guys do. I know Bobby buys a lot of silver pretty regularly. I know other people do. It's the safest investment you'll ever make in your life. There's zero risk. And as you can see by all the demand and all the fire about to happen, the value is going to go through the roof. So, that's why it's like, yeah, we're waiting, but it's not like an investment. It's not like buying Microsoft where you're basically waiting for it. You're basically waiting for it to go up. There's a thing. Ron Paul was a congressman, I don't know, 12 years ago, and he asked Bernanke about is gold money. So I want to show you this. I'm only going to show you the end.
And in the last 2 years of $125 billion. So we are not costing any money in terms of budget deficits or anything like that. In terms of what we were trying to do, of course, the reason the Federal Reserve was founded a century ago was to try to address the problems arising from financial panics, which did, by the way, occur in
that's not why.
Environment in the 19th century. We provided liquidity and short-term loans to help financial systems stabilize. We did that not because we particularly care about the managers or the shareholders of financial firms.
I hate to interrupt, but my time is about up. But I would like to suggest that you say it's not spending money. Well, it's money out of thin air. You put it into the market, you hold assets, and the assets aren't, they are diminishing in value when you buy up bad assets. But very quickly, if you could answer another question, because I'm curious about this. The price of gold today is $1,580. The dollar during these last 3 years was devalued almost 50%. When you wake up in the morning, do you care about the price of gold?
Well, I pay attention to the price of gold, but I think it reflects a lot of things. It reflects global uncertainties. I think the reason people hold gold is as a protection against what we call tail risk, really, really bad outcomes. And to the extent that the last few years have made people more worried about the potential of a major crisis, then they have gold as a protection.
Do you think gold is money?
No.
Even if it has been money for 6,000 years, somebody reversed that and eliminated that economic law.
Well, it's an asset. I mean, it's the same. Would you say treasury bills are money? I don't think they're money either, but they're a financial asset.
Why do central banks hold it?
Well, it's a form of reserves.
Why don't they hold diamonds?
Well, it's tradition, long-term tradition.
Some people still think it's money. I yield back. My time is up.
Thank you. At Mint Mobile,
This is your Federal Reserve Bernanke 10 years ago. The guy's so fucking stupid. I love the question, why don't they hold diamonds? If gold is worthless, why don't they hold diamonds? And the guy's, well, it's, what did he call it? A tradition. First of all, as Luke pointed out before several times, it is real money. It is the only real money. It's in the Constitution as the only money we should have is gold and silver. Gold is legal money, period. The Federal Reserve guy doesn't know that. What the fuck is he doing running the Federal Reserve if he doesn't know gold's money? And it is not for only bad times. You do not hold a Mickey Mantle card because of bad times. It's an asset. You hold gold because if it's a free market asset, it would go up in price a lot because it's very limited and it's very nice. It's a very nice collectible, actually. It is an asset. So is my Canadian Club 12. I hold this because I work there, and I love working at that company. And I'm not going to open this bottle, but gold is not because of bad times, because this is bullshit paper. You hold gold because you're ruining this, and gold is real money. It's the only real money. Now, how we've lasted since 2011 to today is beyond me. That's such bullshit. But the debt is killing them now. 270 trillion worldwide debt. And you're keeping the gold price suppressed because it's what? It's tradition. What a fucking idiot. But who's challenging them? And then if you challenge them, you're a conspiracy theory. No, I'm not a conspiracy theory. The role of the central bank is not for panic. It's an evil thing. It should not exist. It bails out banks who make mistakes because the banks own the central bank, the Federal Reserve, and the banks run the government. So when the banks fuck up, like in the housing crisis, the central bank prints the money and puts them whole. That's the point of the central bank. That's why it shouldn't be here. These companies that went bankrupt should have went bankrupt. Right? If you bet 20 grand on one of my games, well, not on my game, but if you bet 20 grand on a game and you lose, you don't get your 20 grand back. You lose 20 grand. And if it puts you out, it puts you out. Then don't bet 20 grand if you can't afford to lose. That's how the banks should be thinking, but they never do. Ron Paul is a good guy. There's a few guys like that. One guy wanted to go back to the gold standard a month or two ago, and they laughed at him, and he knows what's going to say. They want you in paper. They don't want you in gold because it competes. JP Morgan runs the Federal Reserve. So, of course, the federal chairman is not going to sit there and say, oh, yeah, gold. No, gold's not real. But what happens is people listen to that and people go, oh, well, then why would I own gold? It's not real. It's just a keepsake. Bull fucking shit, it's a keepsake. That's why I have to bring in Aegon and Alligator, because if you listen to, Rick Rude and Reichert and Andy Wasserman or whatever his name is, and Dan Maloney and all these idiots, they don't know the difference between that there's paper gold and physical, and there's a paper. Aegon tells you what right up front. This is paper gold price, and this is physical gold price. Two different prices. He come right out and said it, right? First 30 seconds. You knew exactly. There you go. Well, what does he do? But Andy Schechtman is too stupid to say that. Well, why is the gold price going down? And they show you a chart. These are fucking morons, these American guys. That's why I don't watch them. That's why I don't want you to watch them. I bring you what you should watch because I know they're telling the truth, because I'm at that level that I can smell bullshit. And I smell the bullshit from Rick Rude and Reichert and Andy Schechtman and Peter Schiff. They're all a bunch of fucking idiots. They're just salesmen. None of them are economists. You got to understand, I am an Austrian economist. I understand it. I have a master's in it. So I get exactly. So I can smell shit when I see it. And I see it. from these guys. As soon as they hang up a chart and say, here's the chart, this is what gold did in 2008, and now we're at this. This is what gold should do. As soon as I see that, I call bullshit. These guys are not telling the truth, because do you ever see me with the chart? And the reason you never see me with the chart, because Austrian economists don't use charts. We use words. We explain it. We explain it as, here's how I use a chart. This is the Titanic. It's sinking. Get out. Go to gold. That's how I explain a chart. I don't compare it to 2008, because I'm smart enough with my football to understand that charts don't work. When Tom Brady's no longer on New England, it doesn't work. In your case, Luke, when Terry Bradshaw is not on the Steelers anymore, you can't use the Steeler trends, because the too many of the variables have changed. Joe Green's not there anymore. Lynn Swan's not there. Franco's not there. They're not there. You can't use those charts. So you can't look at the 2008 chart of gold and compare it to today, because we have massive inflation. That was a housing market bubble that broke. They sold real estate trust. And it doesn't matter, because it's all paper gold. So if paper to paper, who gives a fuck? We're not buying paper. We don't go to the coin store to buy paper gold. We go to the coin store to buy physical gold. That's the point of it. And that's what you must understand. That's what we're doing. So therefore, when these guys come out and they don't like, I was very nasty to Rick Rude. And the next time he came on, he said, well, look, I'm just a credit analyst. Then the truth came out. Not an economist, he's a credit analyst. What the fuck do you know about gold? Why are you selling a gold ETF saying it's backed by physical, and it's not backed by physical? There is no physical in these ETFs. If you have 100 ETFs and you think you have 100 ounces of gold, you're out of your fucking mind. Go try to get it. You'll never get it, because it doesn't exist. They don't have any physical. And if they do, it's just a Ponzi scheme. So that's my point with those idiots. Just ignore them. That's why I don't invite them into my class. And that's why I tell you not to listen to them. You listen to Egon, you listen to Alligator, Mark McGuire once in a while. But the other guys you don't listen to. Andy Scheckman says, oh, everybody's buying gold. Well, big fucking deal. It's not priced in physical. It's priced in paper. And it doesn't matter how much gold we are to buy. The price of the physical, the price of the paper gold's not going up, because they're trying to keep it down. And at what point do they keep trying to keep it down whenever we're all over here going, we're buying physical, we don't give a fuck about your paper gold. And that's really the bottom line, is the paper gold is absolutely bullshit. And that's what I keep stressing to you. And when I tell people, I try to tell them paper, they'll say, well, the price doesn't move. And I go, well, that's a fantasy price. 1950 is not a real price of gold. It's a fantasy paper price. And they could print 1 trillion ounces in derivatives that they don't even have. And it lowers the price. Nobody sold the gold. They're just selling the derivatives, and their buddies buying the derivatives, and nobody has any physical gold. The whole thing's a Ponzi scheme. The whole thing's illegal. Just don't listen to it. Just ignore it. So really, that's what I do. But gold is money, as we know, and gold will be the only thing left standing once the dollar collapses, because it's going to be the U.S., it's going to be the euro, it's going to be the British pound, the Swiss franc, the yen, the yuan, the ruble. All of them are going to fucking zero. They have to, because they're just paper with no backing. How nobody could back their shit by gold is beyond me. Well, a lot of it's the U.S. Once the U.S. got control, they wouldn't let anybody else. So Saddam Hussein tried to back it by gold. They killed him. Then Gaddafi tried to have gold-backed currency. They killed him. Well, finally, Zimbabwe came out with gold, with true gold. They didn't kill him. And now they can't kill Russia and China. That ain't going to happen. So the two players who could do it without fear of getting killed by the U.S. are doing it. That's why we sit there, and that's the difference between how has it lasted 50 years without going up. Now we get it. Now we understand the trigger of making it go to a physical price. And we know, as Egon said, the physical price is nowhere near the paper price. So that price of $2,000 you're seeing is a fairy tale price. You add at least a zero to it. He said, Egon's buddy said 10,000 an ounce on its way to 50, and then on its way to nothing in dollars, just gold will be the price. And that's why I'm saying I'm going to buy a house with an ounce of gold, and I'll get it because there will be no other money. And the guy needs it. That's why he's selling. He needs money. He needs to eat and feed his family. And if I'm giving him an ounce of gold, he's all over it because the ounce of gold is worth $300,000-$400,000. He's going to eat for a year with the ounce of gold. But if you're not smart enough to buy it, or he waits too late and now it's 20,000 an ounce, how many ounces are you going to buy at 20,000 an ounce? So we buy it at 2,000, and it's just unbelievable. And so instead of getting frustrated, the price is 2,000. We're excited, going, good, I can buy more. I go to my store, I get another quarter ounce, a couple more tenth of an ounces, another half ounce here, an ounce there. And before I know it, now my goal is 75 ounces before the shit hits the fan. I'm at 55, but I'm getting a little close. But my thing is the silver. Since I own 600 ounces of silver, it'll be 10 for another ounce of gold. So I'll be able to get my 100 ounces of gold using my silver. Silver's an asset. Silver's price is so cheap. That's why people buy silver. They see it at $25, $26 an ounce, and they realize, well, it's going to go up to 200. No, it's going to go up to 2,000. And with whatever gold does, silver will do. So everything we're talking about in gold, silver will also be the money that will then not be priced in dollars. It'll be priced in silver. And if I look at it, so if I'm saying in tons, gold has 244,000 tons, silver's got 500 more silver. Well, supposedly it comes out of the ground for every ounce of gold, 10 ounces of silver. That's where they're getting the 10-1. But the price should then be there. So if gold's at 5,000, silver should be at 500. Gold hits 50,000, silver hits 5,000. And again, it's manipulated to, for whatever the fuck reason. Silver's manipulated too. And I guess they make money on these derivatives, which is very risky. So I don't know how. But with that said, that's why if you don't have a lot of money, I as Bobby will say, shake my head when I see the lifeguard, you got to buy silver. No, I don't have any money. I go, you don't have $100 to buy 4 ounces of silver? That'll be worth $2,000 an ounce. For the $100, you'll get 8,000. You don't have $100? Really? You're a fucking idiot. You're gonna starve, because if you don't have money now and the money goes out and you need gold and silver, how are you gonna eat? So I just, as Bobby says, shake my head. Do the bond yields rising higher because of inflation break the banks, which then brings in the new currency backed by gold? Well, yeah, the bond, as the yields go up, the price of the bond goes down. So it's all correlated, right? So the yield goes to 8%, the price goes to $60. If you bought the bond for 100, you're fucked because it's only worth 60. Break the banks, which then brings in, well, it'll break the bank. That's why all the banks are collapsing. And all the foreigners, because of the inflation. So you have $36 trillion of foreign investment in stocks, bonds, banks, and real estate in the U.S. They're here for safe haven. So that's British, French, Swiss, the Chinese, the Japanese, and the Euro, Germany. So they've got their money and they go, oh, for safe haven, we're putting it into U.S. dollars. But now once they smell what the rock's cooking and they realize that, wait a minute, those dollars are inflating, they're going to be worthless. All right, sell my house, sell my stock, get my money out of the bank, and they'll bring it back into their own. So the Swiss will bring it back to Credit Suisse or USB, and the Germans will bring it into the Deutschmark, and the Brits will put it back into the bank. Whatever the country, they'll bring the money back, and that's what's going to crash the banks and the stock market. All the selling and nobody buying, it's not going to be equal. So with all the selling going on, the price drops. If I can't sell this bottle for $50, and then I lower it to 40 and I can't sell it, and it lowers to 30 and I can't sell it, I'm fucked because it cost me 50 to make this and I can't sell it for 30. So the banks will all collapse because they'll take all the money out, and the stocks will collapse because they'll sell without buyers. And that's what's going to happen. So with that said, your last part of the question is breaks the banks, which then brings in the new currency backed by gold. Do you think the U.S. is going to have currency backed by gold? No fucking way. They're not going to do it. They'll try to put in CBDCs or new currency not backed by gold, and they'll try to do a song and a dance because here the people are idiots. They don't understand gold. They don't understand Austrian economics. They just understand Keynesianism, which is communism, which, hey, we're the government. We'll take care of you. So all these morons will believe it. The dollars not backed by gold are no different than these dollars not backed by gold. These dollars are worthless, so will those dollars. We need gold to actually have a gold-backed currency. We don't have any gold. The 8,000 tons that we have are gone. They're sold. They sold them. They took the money and ran. Therefore, we don't have any gold. Now, we might say we do, but they won't let an audit happen. So how the fuck can we have them? Now, I can say I have gold, and I can come out, like I can say, I got quarters, and here they are. Well, I have gold. Well, where is it? Well, I can't show you. Well, if I can't show you, I don't have any, because I can only say I have if I can show you I have, which they can't do. So keep that in mind. Don't assume they're going to come out with gold-backed currency. This is why I'm looking to go to Switzerland. They have gold. They'll probably go to a gold-backed currency. We know Russia, China, and the whole BRICS are going to have a gold-backed currency. So if I have to go to Russia, or I don't want to really go to Russia, but if my girlfriend says, come on, and don't worry, and she speaks Russian, and we can do it, then okay. Another girlfriend lives in the Ukraine. Maybe I'll go there. Maybe they'll, but it's got to be something under the BRICS umbrella. And I don't know that you're safe there. I only know that the money is. So maybe you just buy BRICS-backed currency that's backed by gold for the dollars. So here's $1,000. Give me BRICS money. Can you do that? I don't know. I think they're more or less just settling it that if you buy oil from Russia or Saudi Arabia or Dubai, you're going to pay in gold. So I would assume that's a gold-backed currency. I know BRICS is coming out with a gold-backed currency, but they got, as I said, between Russia and China, they got almost 100,000 tons of gold. We don't have any. How can we have a gold-backed currency if we don't have the gold? Now, is it faith? If we just say we have it, does that make it so? Okay, I got $100 bill that's supposedly a gold-backed currency. Okay, I'm going to go to the bank and I want $100 of gold for it. Well, we can't give it to you. Well, then, okay, we smell a rat, and they don't have it if they can't give it to me. They can't because, as Egon said, there's only so much supply of gold. If you only have so much, 200,000 tons, and all over the world, you have to, raise the price because you can't make more gold. So what Egon's saying is, because you can't, it's 3,000 tons a year. That's it. That's it. So you can't make any more gold. You can't print it. You can't copy it. So therefore, the price must go up. So now, if they back the dollar by gold and gold's $50,000 an ounce, okay, maybe you would have currency backed by gold because the price of gold's so high. Then they'd have to figure it out, and then it'd be priced in silver also. So the silver might save them if they have a lot of silver and say, well, we're going to have currency backed by silver. Okay, well, that's fine. That's real. Okay, I'd like to get $100 of silver for my $100 bill, or however they work it out. But the prices need to go way up because there's not enough supply. Paper, yes, they can make supply out of thin air, but physically they can't. So the prices of both have to go way up. Basically, it'll put the US dollar out. US dollar number 2 won't do anything. Only the US dollar that has backed by gold and or silver will have a value. So why would anybody want it? Nobody would want it. Nobody wants the fat, ugly 60-year-old woman at the bar. You want the hot 25-year-old woman at the bar. Since everything's about the free market, as I teach you in Adam Smith, Austrian economics is about the free market. I choose chocolate over vanilla. I choose 25-year-olds over 60-year-olds. I choose BRICS currency over US dollars because you choose what's best for you. And that's what happens, right? So that's really the key to it. And that'll continue to be. So the US can print their dollars. Does anybody go run and buy Venezuela dollars? Their inflation's what, 700,000%? They're on their 8th one and they don't back any of them by gold. And their inflation keeps going higher and higher and higher until they go back it by gold. Venezuela's fucked. I don't know about Turkey and I don't know about Greece and Sri Lanka. All these countries went out because of inflation. The only one I know that did anything with gold is Zimbabwe. And they're fine because they have gold. Gold's limited and you can't print it. So you got to understand the first point of economics. You can only have money that's limited and everybody wants. Well, gold's limited and everybody wants. Silver's limited and everybody wants. This paper shit is not limited and therefore everybody thinks they want it, but really the smarter people realize it's worthless. But I can go to the grocery store and I can travel and I can pay my rent with it. So fine. So that's the hidden bullshit is you think it's got value. Well, I paid my mortgage with it, so it must have value. No, the mortgage accepts toilet paper. That's how stupid they are because the government kind of forces them. If the people want to pay with this paper $100 bill, you got to accept it. That's the problem, right? So you're kind of forced to accept it, even though it has no value. That's why we want gold and silver. So when I get paid on Teaserking, what do? I run to the bank, get my money, go buy gold with it. So in a sense, I get paid in gold, but that's what I do. But it's okay as long as I can turn the dollar into gold, as long as the coin store is so stupid that keep taking it. I walk in there and it's just like, I say to myself, I can't believe how stupid these people. Why are they still selling the gold at $2,000 an ounce? Now I bought the maple leaf, right? The quarter ounce, take the 2,000 and divide it by 4. And I paid $500 for a maple leaf quarter and $220 for a maple leaf 1/10. Thank you, God. I mean, it's like, wow, these guys are fucking idiots, but I don't care. I mean, it's fine. I'm not doing anything wrong. I am buying for what they're selling it for. I am not deceiving. I am not giving them bad money. I am giving them US dollars that I know is worthless, and I'm getting gold and silver saying thank you. And, that's it. So as long as we know what is the reality, which we understand the reality, and my class is the only one that gets that this is the reality. That's the thing. I do get a little bit pissed at Egon. I got to put it in his little comments. Some of us in the U.S. buy gold regularly. Oh, Egon. I love how they make that statement. Nobody in the U.S. buys gold regularly. Nobody in the U.S. is smart enough to realize what happens. Some of us can, Egon. Some of us are Austrian economists. But that's why I teach, so you understand it, because you ain't going to hear it anywhere else, because nobody else knows. So it's beautiful. Lucas, I wonder if the stock market and housing market crash at the same time. Simultaneously, the gold skyrockets. Um, yeah, I pretty much think because when the foreigners pull their 36 trillion out, it's in houses and it's in stocks and it's in the banks. The banks will crash at the same time too. Once the people see all of them crashing is when the panic set. So it's once they realize the water's in the Titanic and the boat's going to sink, then the panic sets in. So the people are kind of seeing the water, but going, well, in 2008, the boat hit an iceberg and it didn't sink. So why would it sink now? I mean, that's kind of their mentality. Well, we'll be okay. Trump will come in and save it. Dude, there ain't nothing Trump can do. The only way you can save this is to buy gold and back your currency by gold. But these idiots aren't doing that because they want to destroy the country. You have to understand, people in power are not pro-U.S. They're anti-U.S. That's why none of the things they're doing makes any sense. So therefore, they don't want to save it. And they don't want Trump to be president, and our elections are not real, they are fixed. So you have no chance of Trump saving anything until they fix the voting procedure where it's an honest vote. So I love when they say, oh, everybody come out and vote. That ain't going to matter. They'll still lose. Just like it won't matter if everybody buys gold. That's not going to raise the price. Buying physical gold will not raise the price of the paper gold. You must understand that. You must not get upset when you see COMEX dropping because nobody in their mind selling, everybody is buying. That's the only thing Schechtman says that's true, but his background, he's a salesman. He runs that gold store. What does he know? He doesn't know he's not an economist. So he's just trying to sell gold. So he says, oh, everybody's buying it. Okay. Then I love when he says, well, I hope I'm wrong and the world doesn't collapse. Do you ever hear me say that? Because I'm not wrong. I don't hope I'm wrong. I know I'm right. There's a big difference between knowing you're right and then saying, well, I hope this doesn't happen. Well, what is then everything you came out of your mouth? Bullshit. I call bullshit on the guy. That's the point. This is what's going to happen, and we know it's going to happen, and we're just waiting. But I bring in Egon to say, so instead of having a guest, he just said it, and now you hear it. And that was 3-4 days ago. So you must keep in mind that the only way you can survive is to have real assets, that the whole dollar system is a Ponzi scheme. The dollars aren't real unless they're backed by gold. So they were real at the end of World War II. They came out with a gold standard. Okay, so the dollars are real until 1971. But as soon as Nixon takes us off to do all to become communist, right then we were a communist country because what did he do? And then why do you think gold went up to $800? Because everybody pushed it up. How it went down to 200, I don't have a clue. Like in 95, I bought this, it was $250 an ounce. Why it was down was all COMEX. It was the paper price, not the physical. Why have we had to wait so long? Because it was a monopoly and we're going to price gold in paper. And anybody that tried to say we want physical got killed. So countries weren't standing up. Russia and China weren't really strong. Japan wasn't going to do anything. So that's why for so long it's been held down. But it's always been paper gold that the, $250 an ounce, it hit 800, it hit 1200. It's all paper gold prices. And that's what they're hiding from you. That's the Ponzi scheme, right? So we get pissed because we say, well, wait, physical gold's much higher. So really, Egon's been buying physical gold since 2006 or something like that. He knows, and he on the side, I was buying baseball cards, but I would have preferred to buy gold. but my ex was buying the cards. Now I'm okay because I got a Montana rookie and a Rice rookie and a Peyton rookie. So I might ironically do okay because I have these cards that are worth a lot of money, because I was smart enough to get superstars and not, just Joe Schmoes. But basically, as soon as I got done with my Masters, I knew the only out that I should be doing is buying gold and buying real assets. I knew that was the only way out, even back then. But you never saw it. 2000, it didn't collapse. 2008 should have collapsed. They printed money, but now the debt's too high. They can't print the money. That's why we're fucked. What they did in 2008 was print money to pay the banks off. So the banks printed money to the banks. Basically, JP Morgan said, here, JP Morgan, here, I'm going to print you all this money and you're back to even. So next time you fuck up, we'll print more money. But the debt keeps going up and up and up, so they can't print the money anymore. The money's already worthless. It's been worthless the whole time, since 71, but you have to understand it's worthless. And if people don't understand it's worthless, they'll want it, right? So all Warren Buffett and all these guys think they have, I want money, I want money. You want garbage is what you're saying. So they should have been buying gold. So Warren Buffett will learn his lesson when his money goes to zero and he doesn't have any gold. And I checked, I Googled him, how much gold does Warren Buffett have? Is zero. He's got some silver, but he doesn't have any gold. He thinks his money will be good and he's waiting for the collapse so he can buy cheap. But he doesn't realize his money will be worthless, so he won't be able to buy cheap. And what's he going to buy? He's going to buy what, houses? Or Bill Gates is buying farmland. What's he going to do with it? Gates, you're a fucking IT programmer. What do you know about a farm? It'd be like me running a farm. I have no idea. You're going to milk the cows and feed the chickens, and you're going to cut the cows and get the meat out of it? Yeah, sure, Gates. What planet are you living on? So he bought all this. I don't know what he's thinking. Anyway, so that's your Egon. I showed it yesterday, but for Luke, this way you don't have to watch all the yesterdays. But I talked pro ball yesterday. Today was college. Now I got to look at injuries. So the next step, I've ranked the teams, and now I got to look at injuries. I like this team, but is everybody healthy? Is the quarterback healthy? And maybe a superstar runner. So really, everybody else, who cares? I mean, they're a dime a dozen. You can replace guys. But so the next phase is now look at injuries and then tweak down from 20 plays to 10 play. Really, I'm here to make money. What plays should win, and then I bet them. And then is there a lock? Is there a game I love? Or is there no games I love? But the games with the good confidence and the good injuries, like Miami, I locked the Dallas under with the Miami over. I really thought those were strong plays. I didn't expect Miami to score 70 points, but against Denver, I thought it would go over 41, and it was locked because the over-under was 47. That made it a lock. Free play was San Diego, which was a very strong play, getting, 8 from Minnesota. That was a very strong play. Minnesota doesn't have defense. San Diego with Herbert. So you try to when a weak offense plays a strong offense plays a weak defense, you got the advantage there. I want to bet on that. When a very strong defense plays a very weak team, I'm going to bet under on that game because there's not going to be a lot of points. So that's what you're trying to figure out, is who the team is and what they do. Just like we figured out gold, we know money's collapsing because it's worthless, because it's not backed by anything. And if you understand that money without backing is worthless, you're way ahead of the game. And then your next thought is, what do I put it in? So you got money being inflated, means it's worthless, means I got to get my money out of the bank, which I did, then I got to put it somewhere. So after careful evaluation, I go, I can't put it into another currency. The euro, the yen, the Swiss franc, the British pound is all the same. I can't put it there. Where can I put my money that's going to be safe and protect me? And that's gold. And then I know gold from my masters that is real and that will protect me. Before watching Egon or Alligator or any of these guys 2 years ago or 3 years ago now, I don't know. It's been a long time since I've been saying buy gold, get out of the stock market. And that's where I'm at. So again, understanding what's happening all the way through the chain. So once you get that and you understand that, then everything else. But I'm lucky that I was able to get I went for a master's in finance, corporate finance, budgets and costing and stuff. That was my master. I had an undergrad and a little bit of accounting, which I thought was boring. And I'm a very good math person, statistic person, as you can tell by the football. So I got the master's in finance, and what came with it was a something from heaven where it was, oh, I'm going to take economics. Well, okay. It's Austrian economics, which I didn't know the difference. And the way it was taught, there's no charts, there's no fancy language. It's very easy to follow and understand. So it gave me a great insight to economics and people and money. And then so going for finance, I get money. It's sort of like, getting a job and you meet your wife. You didn't expect to meet your wife there, but you get the job and there's this pretty girl that you like and you marry her. That's really not expected. You didn't really go to the job to meet you didn't look for a wife there, but that's what happens. Luke, have a good evening, Professor. Thanks for the analysis. One day closer. Okay. We're doing the miserables one day more. Okay. Well, have a good day, Luke. We'll see you tomorrow. So anyway, so that's where it's at. Again, gold will go through the roof. It has no choice. The dollar is going out because you can't print it. So if you don't understand anything, understand that if they keep printing and you've got $20 trillion, if you keep printing it loses its value because nobody wants it. There's too much out there. Nobody wants it. And therefore, that's the end of it. So that's really what's coming is nobody will want it. Which the value will go down. So you don't want to own the dollar if it's worth zero. And then you want to own gold and silver because they're so cheap. And you can't print them, so you can't all of a sudden there's 1 million ounces. It's not going to happen. So there's not a lot of gold for the whole world. And as the Russia, China want gold, they have the gold. They want the price to go up because they want to start using it. And if they're going to print dollars, they need a higher price because there's too many people and too many dollars that are needed. And you can't have a $2,000 gold price for it. You need a $20,000 or $30,000 gold price to handle all the volume of the oil and all the volume of the dollar that's going to be needed. So it's a very simple thing. You can't counterfeit gold. You can't print it. There's a low supply. That's why it's the gold standard. And it's pretty. Everybody likes it. And anybody who gets it just smiles going, I got gold. And that's it. And it's worth nothing right now compared to what it's going to be worth. So that's your economics class. It has no choice. It's all based on supply and demand, but real supply and demand, not paper gold supply and demand, which is fake. So whenever you start talking gold and somebody says, well, it's supply and demand, it ain't close to supply and demand. It's paper gold. We're talking physical gold, not paper gold. So keep that under mind that the price of COMEX is paper gold, and it's not close. Add at least 1 0, so like 20,000 would be the price of the physical gold, at least. And the same thing with silver. It's at least $1,000 an ounce now, if not 2,000. That's what the physical price should be. So keep that in mind. So when you hear these low prices, just laugh and going, well, but then knowing that we're about to move, here comes the new prices. The prices will be going up and the price of the dollar will be going to zero. So we know that. Anyway, so football, ran through the lines, ranked the teams, the Z teams, the A teams, the over teams, the under teams. So you can try to figure out what you think the outcome will be. If I got two over teams, so I got USC playing Colorado, and they're both high-scoring teams without much defense. I'm going to sit there and they're over under. I'm going to think there'll be a high-scoring game. Then I look at the number and it's 73. And then I go, well, which Colorado team shows up? They got blanked by Oregon. However, this time they're at home and USC's defense is not that great, but USC's offense will score 50 points. So you might play it over. And that's really, when USC plays Oregon, it'll be very high scoring. But you don't know Colorado. They haven't been in these games before. They're new. So it's harder without history to really get what's going on here. So anyway, so that's college. Then we do pros, and then we narrow it down where I can pick every pro game, but I don't want to bet every pro game. So I think people get confused here. They think when I'm picking the games, I'm betting them. Well, I'm picking what I think will happen, right? So I think USC, Colorado should be a high game, or do I bet USC? Well, I don't know. Am I betting it? I don't know. It depends the other plays I can make. So I'm going to take my best 10. Is that in my best 10? I don't know yet. So just keep that in mind. If you're watching, you're kind of getting what I think will happen, but not necessarily my strength. You don't know how much I like USC Colorado over, only I think it'll be a high score. So I got to finish my pros. And then college is set. Now I got to check injuries. Is the USC quarterback playing? Yeah, I think so. Cam Rising, we talked about, it's up to his surgeon, which is ridiculous. So we don't know if he's playing. We apparently don't know until Saturday, and it's not up to the coach. It's not up to the team doctor. It's up to the orthopedic who actually did the surgery. I don't know what he's looking at. If he can practice, he should be able to, clear him for the games. What's the difference? Is he worried about a lawsuit? If he says he's fine and then he re-injures his knee, he gets sued. Maybe that's what he's worried about. That's what I think it is. But if the doctor in Utah does, so if I'm the Utah coach, I say, fuck this guy. I'm going to go with the Utah doctors. He's seeing him. He's here. He says he's fine to go. I'm going to play him based on him. I don't need the surgeon. That's where I'm confused, is why he needs the surgeon's okay if the team doctor says he's fine and he's practicing not restricted. Fuck it, I'd be playing him. What are you going to do to me? Suspend me for playing my quarterback? I mean, I don't know. It's crazy. Anyway, so that's the next thing. The next step is then injuries. If the quarterback's out, you adjust accordingly. UCF's quarterback's out, Plumlee, but then you look at the backup. He's pretty good. Okay, so you can still judge the team based on the quarterback. Then you look at who they played. If it's a bunch of high school teams, they're not really that good. You be careful with them. If they played good teams and they played well, then okay. So Notre Dame played Ohio State. Now we got a feel for them. And now this week, Notre Dame goes to Duke. Okay. Then you got to check the emotional. Well, it was a big emotional game against Ohio State. Now they got to go to Duke. They're not going to be able to get up like they did. Neither will Clemson. A big emotional game with Florida State, and they lost. And they got to go play. Who's Clemson got? Syracuse, who's a very good team this year. Who is Syracuse beaten? And so it becomes, how good's Clemson? Now they've lost 2 games. They got killed by Duke. They just played Florida State pretty good at home, but now the next week they're at Syracuse after an emotional loss. Are they going to be – they're not going to be emotionally – you can't get emotionally up 2 weeks in a row. That's psychology. You can't do it. You're just flat. You're spent. You put up all your emotion. Now you're flat. So that's what's happening. So anyway, we will talk pro tomorrow. What is today? Today's Tuesday, I think. Okay, so we'll talk maybe pro Thursday. More economics. The gold's always there. BRICS, what's going on with them? What's the war in the Ukraine's already over. Russia won. It's just they haven't. The U.S. doesn't want to give up, so they're going to keep calling it a war, even though it's not. It's really the U.S. using Ukraine troops because they don't want to kill their own people. Zelensky takes the money. He's scumbag. He takes the money from the U.S. and gets his people killed, and he doesn't care. He'll be living somewhere in France or somewhere. He's not a leader. He's terrible. So anyway, that's what's going on. So we'll get more into that. If we hear, I'll look at injury. Maybe we'll look at injuries tomorrow in college and pro and go from there. All right. I am exhausted. Have a good day. www.teaserking.com. You want to buy the picks. Depends. I sell them weekly, monthly. You can buy the rest of the year. Again, you get my email and we can talk about it then. All right, everybody, have a great day. Go buy your gold and silver while it's still available at these prices because it ain't going to stay there. All right, www.teaserking.com. All right, have a nice day, everybody. Take care.